Silencer Central. Folks, if you want to learn something new right alongside me, check it out at silencercentral.com. I've never put a suppressor on any of my weapons, but I'm going to start now, and I'm using Silencer Central to help get me started because they walk you through the whole process. To include, you can ship the rifle to them, they'll thread it, they'll put it on, and they will ship it back, and you can make payments on the whole thing while you wait for all the licensing to get approved, which they take care of for you. It's a great process, and it's a great company, American manufacturer, right there in South Dakota, and we are really excited to be partnering with them. So check it out at silencercentral.com or give them a call at 888-781-8778 and let them know that you heard it on the Western Huntsman. Hoffman Boots is my go-to boot. I love the Explorers in the 8-inch, and they've got the Vibram sole, totally waterproof, no break-in period. They just glue your feet to the mountain. You can't ask for more out of a boot, and you don't have to break the bank to get a pair. So check it out at hoffmanboots.com. Again, another American company. Local North Idaho friend of mine who runs this company decided to make some great hunting boots for all people that are serious about getting into the backcountry to chase elk and deer and bear and everything else out there. So check it out at hoffmanboots.com. Use promo code all caps lock Huntsman10 at checkout to save you 10%. There exists a threat. From anti-hunting groups to politicians trying to give our land away, and we won't stand for it. Those vast western landscapes provide the space for our wildlife to thrive and a place for hunters and anglers to fuel the fire that sparks their soul. In this show, we share our love of hunting, fishing, and conservation. Here, we provide the foundation to meet these threats through passion and the grit of the American outdoorsman. Welcome to the Western Huntsman Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Western Huntsman Podcast. This is Jim Huntsman, your host, coming at you from the Broken Tine Studio and brought to you by Eastman's Hunting Journals. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Glad you guys are here. We are cruising right along. We're getting right into spring, and you know what spring brings. That's kind of a tongue twister. Say that 7 times. We've got spring gobblers coming up. We've got spring bear coming up, and we kicked off the School of September. Let's see, by the time this is out, a week or two ago. So you guys, if you are paying attention, we had Cam Haynes on, so check that one out. And this is always my favorite time of year because it's when I you kind of you get the winter blues kind of coming out of you, and we're starting to get some vitamin D and some sun and snow melt, and so I'm just always really excited and fired up. And so, interestingly, one of my favorite guests is going to be joining me this week. In fact, he is competing for the #1 spot for the most downloaded podcast episodes on the Western Huntsman. He has joined me a couple of times for usually we're talking wolf hunting. He's got a really cool wolf course, which I went through. And in fact, I got to fess up, Tom, I have not finished that thing completely. I got like 3/4 of the way through. Don't hate me yet. I had a reason. But Tom Schneider from Stuck in the Rut is right here, live, loud, and proud, and I'm really happy to have him back, Tom. Thanks for coming on, brother.
Yeah, I always enjoy coming here. Thank you for inviting me once again.
We tried down at the expo. I ran into you down at the expo. I was hoping to get you in that cool little booth we had set up down there to record, but it just didn't work out timing-wise.
Oh, yeah, it's all good. I mean, that's why we have Zoom. So, but yeah, no, it would have been great. It looked like you had quite the setup, and you're a busy guy. So
we all are. That place is like pure chaos, man. I cannot believe how big that thing is. I haven't been to it in years, so it was crazy seeing just how much it's grown and all the people, all the vendors, all the different booths set up, and it was like a different dynamic than back in. Gosh, when was? I probably haven't been to that since like the 90s. That's how old I am. And it's way different than it was back then. You know, back before all the big hunting brands were really coming out with social media and all that kind of stuff. So it's just a different dynamic. So how was it for you guys, by the way?
Oh, it was good. I think just being around that many people, it tends to give me a little anxiety, but
Yeah, me
and
too.
the first day is just so overwhelming. You're like, I don't know if I can do another day. And then you're like, okay, no, and then you get the flow of it. And then
Yeah.
after it's over, then I go back and crawl back to my, um, to my cavern
Yeah.
back in Idaho and hide from this civilization, I guess.
You're like sitting out in the woods in the backyard alone by a campfire, just sucking your thumb for a few days, right? That's how I
Oh,
felt.
man.
It
Yeah.
was like, man, that was like overload social. So it's funny when you live out in places like we do, Tom. What I went down to Coeur d'Alene the other day, and out here when you're driving around and you have an oncoming vehicle or whatever, everybody waves at each other, so it's like habit. So I'm down in Coeur d'Alene, and there's like 100 cars coming by, and I'm like stressed out because I feel like I'm not being able to wave at everybody, and like then I figured out they're all looking at me weird because people down in town they don't wave at each other as they're driving by, so I felt a little out of place down there.
Oh, yeah.
So
Same.
tell everybody what's been going on with you, what's new with you, what's new with Stuck in the Rut, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it always feels like we have a new project going on all the time. So recently, I guess I'll just dive into it that we do have a movie night coming up in Coeur d'Alene. We were just talking about Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah.
We have a movie night. It'll be April 26th at the North Idaho Archery Shop there. And I'm assuming you could do a little plug there with the Stuck in the Rut website where they can find the tickets.
Yeah, so they if on the well, actually, let me find it on the website here because I'll just put that in the show notes.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's just it's
Yep, it'll
stuckinrut.com.
be stuck in rut. You could be able to find it, and and I'll continue on just talking about it. So on those, we had an incredible elk season this year, where my little brother he archered two bulls, my brother archered a nice 6 point, and then I ended up
Mm-hmm.
had a really it was kind of a longer hunt, but I hunted a big bull archery, and then I eventually caught back up to him post rut season and killed him, and so then my sister, brother-in-law and sister, they went to Idaho too, and they killed a nice bull as well. So we have 5 elk videos that we will be showing at this movie night, as well as 2 mule deer hunts. And it's just your typical heavy timber muley hunts that, you're not necessarily shooting long range. You're hunting them up close and personal. So it'll
And
be a fun time, and we'll do a Q&A. There'll be food there. It'll be a good time. So I highly recommend attending that.
yeah, what does that look like? So you're going with North Idaho Archery, right? The shop down there, which is a pretty cool new shop. It's a newer shop. Super good dudes over there, by the way. I got to give them a shout out. And so you're just gonna like set up in the shop. How many tickets are roughly gonna be? So people can kind of. Oh, there we go. I found your website. Sorry, man. I've been.
You're all good. You're all good. Yeah. So it'll be 50. We're going to max out at 50. We're going to cap it off. We don't want any more than that just because we want to be able to talk to everybody and get to know everybody. And so I felt like that'd be max.
Mm-hmm.
So no more than that. So there definitely is a limited amount of tickets. So please pick them up before they sell out. Definitely.
Heck
And,
yes. So I'll put that link in the show notes, guys. So you can just go if you're in North Idaho, or a lot of you guys, we get a lot of listeners in Spokane and Eastern Washington there. So if you guys want to go check that, I'd love to come to that. I don't think that's going to work for me timing wise, but I'd love to come to that. At the North Idaho Archery Shop.
it
So
was
you guys,
probably bad timing because bear season starts for
it,
like
it
some
that's
guys are going to,
that's part of it. That's
yeah.
part of it.
Yeah.
Part of it, and yeah, just spring is always chaos for me, kind of like the expo was. But yeah, I think the wife has us scheduled for something that particular Friday. But if you guys can make it, that'd be awesome. That'd be a fun way to just kind of connect and rub elbows with the Stuck in the Rut crew.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great.
Cool.
Hope to see everybody there. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So, how's and the other thing I wanted to ask you before we get into talking bears, you guys are, what camps are you guys doing? Are you doing any, like last year you did that big wolf summit camp?
Yeah, we're doing a second annual wolf camp. It's on the website as well. We're doing the elk camp again in Southeast Idaho, and so just, I mean, they turned out so well. We're just like, well, we're just going to repeat it, just do the
Yeah.
same camps there. We're going to test out this one just because there has been a lot of people that they want to get into sheep hunting, but they just don't even know where to start. And there's just a lot of work that goes into sheep hunting. And so we decided to try it out. And we're going to do a sheep camp as well. And we're actually going to do it actually up there in the Yak, Montana there.
Oh, you are?
Um, yeah.
Oh,
So we'll do the
sweet.
camp there. Yeah. And so that's going
Huh.
to be nice. That one's going to be in June. That area is just so beautiful. And there's a lot of really cool country. We're going to hike. We got fitness trainers that are going to be there. We're going to have guest speakers. Some of the best sheep hunters I know that have killed the Grand Slam. They're going to be there
Oh,
and
nice.
teach everything about sheep, from field judging them, from even just hunting them in general. I know most of the people that'll be attending they'll have a guide on their sheep hunt, but even though you have a guide, you still have to be able to field judge a ram. And because here's a prime example. One of my friends did a hunt in Alaska this year, and his guide misjudged a ram, and it wasn't legal. It
Oh,
wasn't legal
no.
to fight full curl, and so he just went with what the guide said, shot the ram, and unfortunately, it got taken from him. He
Oh,
got
no.
fined and the guide. And for me, in my head, I'm like, well, isn't that the guide's responsibility? But at the same time, it's the hunters too. And so, regardless if you have a guide or not on your sheep hunt, you still have to learn these things. And so we have
Interesting.
that camp as an option too. And it's a small camp, same thing. I like to keep these camps small just so that we can customize the experience for people. So these aren't, we don't do, we don't have a big audience. We want to keep it small. So
Yeah. Yeah. Those, I can't think of like a better way to really get up close and personal with some of the knowledge that you guys are willing to share, because like I'd love to attend the Wolf Summit camp that you guys do, because I went through most of your wolf course there. And right about the time I was getting, like I told you, about three-quarters of the way into which is the online course is what I'm talking about. For anybody not, what do you call that? Is it the Wolf Masterclass or online?
yeah. Yeah, hopefully it's not getting confusing, but yeah, then I do have an online class called the Wolf Hunting Masterclass.
Yeah,
Uh,
Wolf Hunting Masterclass.
yeah, and that
Yep.
one it's actually been one of my most successful classes that I've had, as well as the Mule Deer Masterclass online too. Just because people can take it at their convenience, right? It's like, for example, we were just recently talking about, oh, like, I wish I can go to the event in April, but I'm going to be busy. What I think that's great with having these online classes is that people can take it whenever it's convenient,
Yeah.
and they can take it as many times as they want. They don't just get it one time. They can go through it, and if they want, they can go through it again and again. And sometimes, it's just like me. If I go through a class again, I learned something new, something that I missed the last
Yeah.
time. And so
Yeah.
to be able
Some of
to
the
have access is important.
Exactly. Some of the masterclass, the Wolf Masterclass videos that you did, I watched them like three or four different times, and each time I would like pick something new up.
Good.
Because going through and man, like, dude, you're just a good teacher. You're a really good teacher, and I really
Thank
enjoyed
you.
yeah, do you know what I'm saying? Like, um, some people have the ability to transfer knowledge and information in ways that people can like make sense of in their own mind, and other people are like me. I'm not a good teacher, and I've learned that when I tried to. I was giving drum lessons over the winter to some of the kids in the community here, and like I don't know how to do it the way that you do it, that makes it make sense in like this simplified way that sticks in people's mind. I complicate things because I probably, this is why I have a podcast. I talk too much. And so and but you have a really good way of transferring that information to people. And so I really liked the like the behavioral stuff that you talked about with wolves, and like how you compared it to and I don't want to give away a bunch of stuff from it, but compared it to like how you're learning from just watching your own dog, and different things and what wolves respond to and why they respond and why they get curious and come check you out. And it was just it was such an interesting class, which by the way my girls loved it too. Me and my girls, we were like all into it. And then what happened was, like we were talking before you started recording, you found that property or whatever. This property we bought came up, and like our life went into like this whirlwind, and I haven't logged in since. So
I
it's
feel
it's a
like I
great
could
course.
relate.
Yeah, it just life happens sometimes. It's like,
Yeah.
man, I am gonna set a goal. I'm gonna finish this wolf course, and I did that. With like the Elk Collective, and Eastman's has some great courses too. And I'm like, I'm gonna go through the whole thing, and then just like life happens sometimes. And so, but like you said. That's the nice part is I can just go back and log in and finish where I left off. In fact, I'd probably start from the scratch, but if anybody has a hankering to go chase wolves, that class, which is again at stuckintherut.com, right? It's Western Wolf Academy. No. That master classes, no, wolf
Yeah.
hunting
So
master class. So
yeah. So Western Wolf Academy is the event that you would attend in Cascade, Idaho, if you wanted an in-person class. It's a 3-day course where you get to stay in a lodge with us and stuff, and it's a great time. We had a blast last year, and of course we're going to do this summer as well. The online one is the Wolf Hunting Masterclass.
yeah, yep,
Yeah.
that's the one. And so, guys, if you have a hankering to go hunt wolves, do yourself and do actually everybody else a favor and take this course, because like I am not going to go actively pursue wolves until I master some of the concepts in this course, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up educating wolves more than get lucky on a dumb one, which just doesn't really happen. And
Yeah.
so do you want to speak to that as to why that course is super important?
Oh yeah, because I spent 4 years wising up wolves before I started gaining the concepts myself and started understanding wolf behavior. And then then when you're actually killing them, you're killing you're pretty much restarting the pack once again. Like I think the best way to explain this is you're killing every witness. So, and you're not
Hmm.
wising up the pack. And so when you know what you're doing, you're killing wolves, there's no witnesses behind, and you're going to consistently have new wolves to hunt that have no education in hunting whatsoever. And so it's good to be able to know what you're doing and to utilize that time that you have with the wolf pack, because it's not even just about having one opportunity on a wolf. It's about having multiple opportunities on a particular pack. You could use one method on pack, call them in, successfully call them in, kill one or two, and then that's it. Those wolves will never come into that method again. So you got to use a different method on that same wolf pack in order to have a second chance on them. And I have gone back and over on the same packs year after year, and have killed different members out of the packs just because I just consistently changed my methods and stuff. And then as soon as you get the brains out of the pack, aka alpha and the alpha male and alpha female, then it's almost like you can start over again and you go back to the original methods and calling them in,
Like a
because
reset, yeah.
it's like a reset. Exactly. And they'll start going back to those original rendezvous points that they weren't feeling comfortable because there was a time where you shot them out of there. So they're like, they don't feel safe in that area anymore. But as soon as you restart that again, you got new groups move in, then it's almost like you're back hunting wolves that have no hunting pressure. And so being able to do that is just really important in predator management. Now, I will still say to this day that trapping is the most effective way to manage wolves. However, what we've been seeing lately is trapping is being attacked
Yeah.
left to right. And in Montana, they've shut down. They only had a trapping season for a month and a half this year in Montana. It went from January to February 15th, shut it off. That you don't even have enough time to pattern a wolf pack for that
Yeah,
long.
I know.
And now they just shut down most of Idaho.
I know all the critical areas where the wolf packs are most prevalent. There's also suspicion of having grizz in there, and so they shut that down. It is like the
Yeah.
lion's share of wolf country in Idaho is shut down. It's
Yeah.
lunacy.
It is, and it just what bothers me the most. It's from people that have a white suit tie that never have had any experience being out in the wild, and they just
Yeah.
these are the people making the decisions for us. And even the Fish and Game were kind of upset. They're just like, "Gosh, like this is not what we were hoping." I think, I mean, I know how well Idaho works with wolf management and especially with working with the Foundation for Wildlife Management. We're
Mhm.
going to get it back. I'm very confident we'll have that back by this fall.
I
They'll
hope
fight
so.
that. I think so. Montana, on the other hand, they have a lot of opposition. There's a lot of opposition in
Yeah.
Montana, and so
Yeah.
Montana is always going to be a fight.
And the argument was in Idaho, oh, we're worried that a grizzly is gonna, get caught up in a wolf trap. I I don't see that. Is that something that am I just like super ignorant and that's something that happens a lot and I just don't know about it? Or
Just it's
you,
never happened in Idaho. So unless it's like a fish and game officer trying to purposely trap a grizzly to move it out of an area, there's not been an accidental grizzly capture in what has it been now since 2011. It's just hearsay. It's like,
yeah.
oh, it could happen, but it hasn't. So, and it's not an issue. And I even know that the trappers that I know personally that are really skilled at trapping, and they're trapping some of the the heaviest grizzly population areas that you can possibly think of. And they pull out as soon as they start seeing grizzly tracks on the ground. They pull all their sets out immediately. I mean, everybody's pretty cautious with the grizzlies, and they're
Yeah.
and working really closely at the Fish and Game and stuff with that. So, um, you know, trappers aren't stupid; they're smart people, and it takes a smart trapper to capture wolves.
Oh, absolutely.
Um, and then the thing is too, I mean, and if we're talking about footholds, like for example, let's look at Montana where you're only allowed to use footholds. Let's say a grizzly does get in a foothold. What's the worst it can do to the grizzly? It's not going to kill it.
No.
Just
It doesn't they
like
don't even kill the wolves. Come on.
it doesn't even kill the wolves.
Yeah.
Wildlife biologists use footholds to capture animals, to catch and release animals, and to do their studies. So footholds don't kill the animals.
No.
And so I think it's bizarre when they use the grizzly as an excuse to shut. That's really what it comes down to. Is they actually don't even care about the grizzly itself. They're just using it as a reason to shut down the wolf season because it's these wolf activist groups like was it the Wolves of the Rockies?
Yeah.
That's a big
Also the
that
rocket they flat blocked me on Instagram, man. Yeah. And then
yeah.
there's the Relist the Wolves campaign group. There's Wyoming Untrapped. They're pretty vocal. God, what is that group? I think
Trap Free Montana is another one.
yeah, Trap Free Montana. They're one, but it's always such a laughable thing. Like you said, trappers are super cognizant of the fact that if a grizzly bear is like if there is any chance that we are going to harm a grizzly bear, we don't want that kind of negative press as hunters and trappers, and that's it's something that I think that they think about. They're very cautious of it, and in worst case scenario something does happen and a grizz steps in a foothold or whatever. It's not like it's going to kill this bear. The bear, like, it's not, I don't even know if it'll leave a bruise on a bear. I could put my ankle in most wolf traps and I'll be fine. It's just not. They make it out to be like this big bad. What was that movie from back in like the 80s where they had all these big bear traps that would take your leg off if you stepped in one? I can't
Like
I'm
Fox
drawing
and
a
the Hound, the little cartoon that I watched with
yeah,
the
probably.
Jaws.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, like
just
that.
those
Yeah.
big jaws and like there was some other movie where they were just how Hollywood is. They like to just propagate the negative things of hunting and trapping and even fishing sometimes. But it's I don't know, these misconceptions get out there and the general public falls for that and they're like, oh yeah, we got to save the grizzly bears because right, like as if we can't afford to lose a few grizzly bears anyway. Um, they're
Well, I think
already
that's what really needs to
overpopulated.
happen. No one will, there'll be no more excuses if we can at least get them delisted.
Hmm.
I think there's more to delisting the grizzly than just hunting them, but it's what we're
Yeah.
able to do on our public lands again. We're shut down on so many acres of public land over an animal that's doing well. They're not
Yeah.
struggling, and they don't mind loggers. I was actually, with Dirk Durnham. We were pursuing wolves last fall,
Hmm.
and there's a grizzly bear, big old grizzly, just big old pigeon toed, and he walked right between, just like it was the weekend, so the loggers weren't working. They had all their equipment, big log pile. The grizzly walked between all the logging equipment, just kept going, just as if
Yeah.
it wasn't even there. They're just like
Dude, I
they,
have scratch marks on the back of my house from a grizzly bear peeking in our windows. Like they can go anywhere. Wait, you took Dirk the dadgum bugler Durham out
I
chasing
did.
wolves and you guys didn't call me?
I know.
No, I'm kidding. I think actually Dirk, he did tell me he was going up there to do that. I remember talking to him when he was up here. That's
Yeah.
awesome, actually.
The wolves outsmarted us, unfortunately. So
Well, there's always next time, brother. You'll get
there's
them.
always next time.
I have
I'm still
a
keeping
lot of
an eye on
confidence
that
in you.
wolf pack. There's five in the group, and none of them got trapped this winter. So, well, no, one did get killed this February just hunting. One guy hunted and walked upon one, kind of like an accidental kill.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, but I'm keeping an eye on them still. I'm just like keeping tabs on them, and the trapper just finally pulled out recently. Every so often when the wolves were away from the trap line, I'd get a lead to go after them. But then I start following the tracks, and they go right, and they start heading back into where all the trap lines were. And so I'm like, I call the trappers and say, "Hey, I'm backing out." They're heading back to your traps again. So,
Oh, good for you.
but I don't. But for what I've known, I don't think a single wolf got hooked. I mean, that pack there is so tuned up,
Huh.
so tuned up.
So yeah,
It's a tough one.
that's interesting. See, I wish I wish more people had the etiquette that you did. That like you're actually respecting the trappers and letting them know, hey, I'm backing out. They're back on your line. That's cool, first of all. But second of all, you said something there that I want the audience to I want to make sure the audience picked up on what you said in regards to the hunter that was out. He was probably hunting elk or deer or something and came across a wolf and had a wolf tag, right? And got one. That
Yeah, but it
is
was in February, so I don't know exactly what he was doing out, if he was shed hunting or something, but he was out and
oh, it
about.
was
And
in
then
February.
yeah, it was in the month of February when he was out there. And so it's kind of that breeding. It's during the time the wolves are breeding. So they're kind of, he probably it just seemed like he killed a younger one that may have broke off the pack, probably trying to look for a mate. And
Yeah,
so just for what I gathered, I wasn't there,
sure.
so I don't know exactly what happened, but for how the story goes. It's good to know there's one less wolf in the area, but there's still. Well, the thing is, so the reason why that pack's so wised up is so my brother missed the alpha.
Oh no.
Back well, what year was it? It was back in the fall of 2022. He missed the alpha.
Dang it.
His scope got bumped, and
Oh, I think you told me this story.
yeah, so his scope got bumped. It was kind of a bummer deal because my brother's an incredible shot, and
Yeah.
he shot, and he said, "My gun, like I just felt like that was a dead wolf, and I just saw it run off." I was like, "I believe you, bro," and I was like, for me, I was like, I was convinced the wolf was dead, but then when we took it to the range, he was, I mean, he couldn't hit paper at 100 yards,
Oh wow.
so you
That's
got to.
it's crazy how off they can get, man. My daughter missed a bear last year and I think I'm the one that bumped the scope. And
Oh,
I mean, we're talking like 40 yards, and shot right over the top of him. Um, Big bummer as the first shot she had on a bear and missed it. So, I felt terrible. But what I wanted to ask and the point I was trying to make is there's not a lot of dudes like you that can consistently go out, locate wolves, and kill them. Right? That is not the norm. Most hunters go out, and most people that shoot a wolf, it's usually like this offhanded accident while they're elk hunting. They kind of walk into a dumb wolf standing there, which again, most wolves they're just not dumb. You get some that are just a little less cautious every once in a while, and I think that's what happens, or they just flat out, it's a total accident. They didn't hear each other. Um, the consistency, the thing that you've created, where you're able to go out, locate packs of wolves, learn like behaviorally or whatnot, whatever the word is for that, where you kind of learn their routes, where they're hanging, where and how you're going to be able to get close to them. And that's what people will learn in that master class. There's a lot of great trail cameras out there. I've run the Tacticams, and that's a great system, especially their cell cameras. I've run a lot of different brands that I've recommended to you guys in the past, but the right fit at the right time is the Spypoint trail cameras. I have a couple of the Flex G36s that are cell cams. They do a really good job for keeping track of everything that's going on my property. And I also have for, kind of out in the backcountry, I've got these Force Pros. Man, the picture quality on those Force Pros is just amazing. If you guys saw some of the bear pictures I was showing you during Spring Bear, that was a Force Pro. Really great cameras. I'm really excited that they chose to sponsor the show, because I've been using Spypoint for a long time, and I think you guys are going to be just as happy as I am with them. And check them out at spypoint.com and let them know the Western Huntsman sent you. Some of you might be old enough to remember back in the day when you can go to Walmart and get you a Savage rifle for very cheap. And they did a good job, but they weren't equipped for some of the hardcore hunting out there that we do today. If that's a memory that you have with Savage, like I do, I'm telling you, it's not like that anymore. Savage Arms is one of the premier firearms manufacturers dedicated to us hunters. I have this freaking Savage 110. It's the Apex Hunter, and this thing is amazing. I love the AccuTrigger. You can also get them with the AccuFit, which allows you to adjust the stock. So if you're buying them for youth hunters or whatever, or just, rifles fit you different. It's so flexible. It's so perfect for every hunter. It's just not the same Savage that it was 30, 40 years ago. It's a great firearm for everyday use while hunting, and they support hunters and they support this show, and I really appreciate Savage Arms. Check them out anywhere firearms are sold, or go to savagearms.com to find out more. The question I have for you, without giving away the farm as to what's in the masterclass, is when you're going into new country, Tom, and you're I know we're supposed to be talking about bears. We'll get there, but
Yeah.
when you go into new country and you're like, okay, I'm going to go find some wolves. Maybe you are, I have a tendency to ask questions that are very Northwest Montana, North Idaho focused, how the country is up here, and a little bit different. But generally speaking, when you're like, okay, I need to go find a new pack. I need to go find some new wolves to pursue. What are you looking for in the country where you're going to find them? Is it a certain distance from roads? Is it certain elevations? Is it certain habitat features? What are you looking for to locate wolves that you don't know are there yet? Does that make sense? You already know where most of the wolves are.
It's a combination of things, and what's interesting is, I always mention that my favorite time to hunt wolves is actually later on in the fall, late summer, early fall. That's one of my favorite times to hunt them. But that's usually not the time where I start doing my homework. The homework is done usually in the winter months. The unfortunate truth in some of this country is we get so much snow, it sometimes can be hard to keep up to wolves on foot. But what I love about snow is it shows evidence of what's been there, and it's a lot more obvious evidence, right? Very similar to cat hunters. Cat hunters, when they run road systems, they're learning about cat tracks, and that's, they're able to hunt that way. And I kind of hunt the same way like a hound hunter would, and more or less, rather than having hounds, so I'm more or less just understanding where wolves are crossing, where they're living. I can even do a head count, how many wolves are in a pack. It's well, then that all depends too. You can just see the tracks. The tracks tell the story. What are the tracks doing? Are they on the mission? Are they moving somewhere? Are they hunting? Are they zigzagging, a wintering range for deer and elk? And if you spend enough time in there, you'll eventually kind of get a head count. Okay, well, it looks like to me there's four wolves that are running this area. And so then when the snow melts, and then I start looking at those areas, like you were saying, where there's certain terrain features that wolves like the most. And so then I start focusing on those areas. I'm like, okay, well, this wolf pack, this is their territory. Most likely, these are the places they're going to be at. And so those are the places I look for. Also, too, most likely they had a litter of pups by the time we're getting closer, to midsummer, early fall. You got a new litter of pups that have never had hunting pressure before. And so you have new wolves and brains that have not yet adapted to hunting pressure. Although the alpha male can really quickly get onto those young wolves about hunting pressure. And I've had it happen to me multiple times, including the country that you were living in. A friend of mine invited me to go down there, and I never hunted that area before. And he took me down. It was this, let's see. Oh, trying to think. I think it was May. He's like, "Hey,
Yeah.
come down this country. There's these wolves." And he's like, "I haven't been able to get on them." I'm like, "Well, I got a day. Let me see what I can do." And we got down there and we had the whole pack howling and located in 4 hours and found them, but you could already tell that they've had hunting pressure of some sort because I've heard this before. And it's when the adults they'll bite the pups to shut them up, and you'll start hearing the yelping, and you'll hear the whole pack go quiet.
Mm.
And so
I've heard that too.
happened.
Yep.
And then it just went quiet on us. And so then we just more or less were walking blind, and we were both, it was one of those deals. It was just a very echoey canyon. And I'm like, well, I thought they were howling here. And then he pointed over here. And so we're like, but then they howled for us again. And then it sounded a little different, but there was so many benches, so many timber draws. And so it got to a point where we couldn't get him, talking again. I'm like, well, we can't kill him being up here. So let's drop down in the hole and start reading tracks, and,
Mm-hmm.
but they just went quiet. They knew something was up immediately.
They'd had
And
some pressure. Yeah.
they've had some pressure. And so, and that kind of goes back, as soon as you can kill the alphas out of the group, it just wipes the slate clean. You have back wolves that have never had hunting pressure again, and they cover different territory. Some areas are new, some areas are different, and and their odds of getting killed again are much higher.
Yeah.
But even the best trappers that I know, I mean, and again, I won't. He's a quiet guy, so he doesn't give out his name, but he's over 100 wolves now in Idaho. He's trapped over 100 wolves.
What a stud.
And he still has wolves that he's been trying to trap for 3 years that he can't hook. He's like, they're just like, they have wised up to him so much. They come through his trap lines frequently, and they just know how to not get hooked. And sometimes at the wrong time of the year, he'll hook one that he's been after for 2 or 3 years, and he's on cloud nine when that happens.
Wow.
That is a feat for him. And he doesn't even
Wow,
get it.
it's so crazy that they get that they just like know, it's amazing. It's amazing what they figure out, and it's amazing how they communicate that to like the younger pups. Yeah, it's just it's mind-boggling, like what is going on out there that they really are an amazing animal. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
as like you're a great elk hunter, and you're a great wolf hunter. Is going after the alpha, is that like this similar thing where you're pursuing the herd bull, but maybe even to a greater extent because just wolves have a tendency to, well, let's face it, wolves are smarter.
Yeah. A big herd bull is smart, and I think the best way that I've explained this is I feel like with a herd bull, you have a couple chances on them, right? Like I can mess up on a big herd bull, setup's not right, but if I'm like, okay, well that didn't work. Let me try it again, or let me try something else, and eventually I can make it work. Although this bull could have smelt me, he could have saw me. Sometimes I could still work on a herd bull a week later and kill him.
Yeah.
A wolf, it's like you have one chance. Like you have one chance, and you blow it. And I think, and so you have to not just be a good like at reading the situation, but you also have to be a good shot too, because so many people miss wolves.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, I've done it too. And so I can't say I'm not, I can't wash my hands clean. I point fingers, but blood's on my own hands too. I make mistakes too. I've missed wolves. I've wised up wolves. I've just told you about a pack of 5 that me and Trav wised up, and I'm like,
Oh yeah.
we just honestly just can't get on them. Like they hardly will talk. Um, I said I thought I had a chance again. So like when Dirk was going to come up, I had him pinned down, and they stayed in the same spot for 3 days. And I'm just like, come up, man! Like they're in the same spot, they're not moving. And I think what happened. So when Dirk came up, and that evening we got them howling. I'm like, and they are way up the canyon than when they're normally at. And I'm like, huh, they're moving. I don't know why. We get over there, and I think they were doing there was some force management being done on the other side. They were thinning a bunch of trees over there. And so I think
Oh
it was just the timing. They were thinning really close to that rendezvous point, and it just bumped them out. And that logging crew was in there, and so the wolves ended up bouncing out of there. So it just kind of, unfortunately, like I said, it was just timing. I felt like if everything was right and the logging crew didn't quite move in just yet, I think we would have got them. But
yeah.
the timing was just wrong on that. And
You too.
so
What you guys needed was me there to help kind of direct guide you guys, you know. Yeah,
now that I
my
know,
wisdom would have carried the day, I think.
yeah,
The
exactly.
I got an odd question. So you're talking about you've wised up a wolf pack, right?
Yeah.
Is that when you say that again, you're gonna I'm gonna reveal my ignorance on this. Um, when you say that, you've wised them up. They're not going to respond to your calls anymore, and you're like hunting them in this one specific rendezvous point. What if you find the same five wolves 50 miles in the other direction at a different, you know how they have like multiple rendezvous point kind of things? They like these areas that they tend to.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm saying rendezvous. I'm using rendezvous point in the right context. So everybody needs to take the Wolf Master class to understand how to learn this better. But do those tactics, are they still like null and void at that point? The wolves know that's you. They or is it so so
So
so so?
they still can, like
Yeah.
that big white male I killed. I killed him quite a ways from when I saw him previously.
Uh-huh.
And he was very unvocal. And well, no, they were vocal, but they were doing warning howls. So it was the vocals of we need to get out of here, like something's up. And
Gotcha.
so the way I ended up killing that one is I just had to move into him, without calling. And I pretty much what I did is I disrupt the group. Like I split them up. And then just like a herd bull, very comparable, that big white alpha came back to try to round up some wolves that left the pack. Like I kind of like when I ran in there, I kind of went full charge in a cedar grove, and they scattered. And I had young wolves that went this way. I had him and the rest of the group went this way. There was this old aldered road that went to my left. I grabbed my sister and we're like, well, the bigger tracks go this way. So this is where the alphas went. Let's follow those. But we were just so confused because there was tracks going all which directions. And
Yeah. Heck
he
yeah.
was coming back. I met him around the corner at 70 yards, and he just gave me that oh crap look, like, oh shoot, I messed up. And but and I got him aged. He's 5 years old, and so he's definitely the alpha.
Wow. Yeah. See it. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
an old wolf, folks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Good for you, man. I'm always so envious sometimes when I hear some of the adventures you talk about on these
Well,
wolf hunts.
thanks.
It sounds like so much fun.
It is.
It's one of those things I've always been just overly cautious about pursuing that too heavily because I don't want to be the guy that's out there, teaching these wolves what to avoid, So, but I
But
think I
yeah,
can
at the
get out
same
there.
time, and I think, and I'm this, and I have my moments too where I start getting that, like, I'll feel like you sometimes where I'm just like, I gotta do everything right. If I don't do everything right, I'm gonna mess up. And sometimes I just have
Yeah.
to think to myself, you can't kill them if you don't go after them,
Yeah. Very true. Very
And
true.
I still am envious of people that do it. It's like they do everything, they do all the right steps, they still mess it up. I still applaud them. I'm like, gosh, you about got him. And
Yeah.
but what hurts is when people miss obvious wolves. What hurts even more is when people start when they shoot the first wolf and they get all excited and hoot and holler, and then they don't keep pursuing the wolf pack. That's kind of where I start getting upset. I'm like, you still had a chance to kill more.
Hmm.
And again, same thing. I've made the mistake, so I can't, like I said, I can't point fingers there. I've done the same thing. I've done it where like I kill a wolf, like, yes,
Yeah.
I got one, and then I just want to go home. And it's like, no, drop a waypoint, keep pursuing the pack. Even if I have to skin that wolf out at 11 o'clock at night, this is my only chance to
Heck
get
yeah.
the rest of the pack. Because what they're going to do is if I skin them out and leave that carcass, they'll come back, investigate the situation, realize what happened, and then they're going to avoid that place like a plague. But another thing, and I'm not giving too much information. There's a lot on the masterclass, but
Yeah.
I have found if you pack out the wolf hole, that they'll keep staying in that area.
Instead of just skinning them out right there and leaving the carcass.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Try
so
to
pack
pack
it
them
out.
out,
What about
and
gutting them? You don't gut them, do you?
you try to pack it all out, and so you're not
Gotcha.
leaving anything behind that they could sense. But yeah, it's tough. Like some of the trappers, some of the best, and I learned this from the trappers because some of the best trappers I know, when they like hook like a very important member of the pack, it could be the alpha male, it could be alpha female. The rest of the members keep coming back looking for it, and so they smell that. Like they'll literally right where they hook that alpha male, they'll put another set right there, and
Yeah.
if they get him out clean without leaving a lot of blood behind and stuff, like they'll come back in looking for him, and with that scent still being there, they'll hook other members of the pack. And so
Yep.
I kind of learned that from them, and it seemed to work. Like there's still areas that they just use rendezvous points, just because I've chose to pack them out. Other places where it's like they've used these rendezvous points for years, and as soon as I laid havoc, like especially remember that spot where I killed those 4
Yep.
wolves
I
in
do.
one spot, they will not touch that spot again. They
Huh.
avoid that spot like a plague. They make sure to go as soon as they get to that draw, they make sure to go all the way around that draw.
Wow. Still to
Avoid
this
it like
day.
oh yeah, they're just like they don't want to have anything to do with that
It's
draw.
insane. That's so cool, man. That's so
Yeah,
cool you even know that. It's awesome.
yeah,
Are
it's
you
crazy.
now you use a suppressor, right?
Yeah, suppressor's nice, and I noticed it with other game too. With bears or elk or anything. Like when you use a suppressor, if there's any other animal standing around, they just don't react to it that much. So I've been a
Yeah.
fan of suppressors. I got into it just because I got tired of having to throw ear protection in. You know, when you're taking rush shots and stuff. I was starting to build some tinnitus. I think that's what you call it, tinnitus.
It
I
is.
was like,
That's what I have terrible tinnitus, man. I can't. I actually the VA is going to give me some hearing aids, but I've been procrastinating about doing that because like I think of hearing aids like my dad wears hearing aids, man.
yeah.
I'm in my early 40s. Come on now.
It'll
Uh
be a topic maybe after this, but I'll have to tell you because I had a pretty bad struggle for a year and a half, and I finally got it like in under control. But it was kind of what pushed me to get to suppressor,
yeah.
and I do have those. They're like a hearing aid, but they're also ear protection at the same time. So they're kind of built both ways.
So is it like one of those over the counter type ones that you can just buy? That-
Yeah, so I first got a custom mold, and I got tested first to see where my tinnitus was coming from, and it was self-inflicted. It's been being around too many firearms.
Sure.
And I got that tested first, and then they kind of built in a small little sound in there, and it kind of compensates the tinnitus, and it's a lot of it's about training your brain back from not listening to it.
Yeah.
And I could tell you to this day, like I've watched a lot of videos and they say it's not curable and stuff, and I was like losing a lot of hope. But I was like, to this day, I'm so proud to say that I don't have tinnitus right now. Like right now, talking to you, I don't hear it. Every so often it comes
Oh,
up.
interesting.
Yeah, every so often if I don't get a good night's rest for a couple weeks or so, sometimes when I'm working long hours, I'll start hearing it again. But I'm really careful with firearms. I think that's the
Yeah.
tough thing. You go to your friend's house, right? And they're like, everybody shoot guys, like, here, try this shotgun. I'm like, we don't have ear
Yeah.
protection. I'm not gonna shoot. They're like, aren't
Yeah,
you this
I
almighty hunter? And I'm
don't
like,
recommend that at all. I'd
oh,
love to pick your brain on how you got rid of it because mine is bad. The tinnitus is really bad. In fact, I was in the Marines and a lot of mine comes from the military where in certain situations you're not putting ear protection on.
yeah.
And so now I'm really cautious, but it's interesting. I actually have like a VA disability rating because of my tinnitus, and
Oh,
so
yeah.
so they'll provide me with the ear you know what are they called? I just named it hearing aids. um, but interestingly, with like last year, I took my girls. So my girls are old enough now where like they don't just keep up with me on the mountain. They will like leave me in the dust, right? It's not like when they were young, I'd take them out and it'd be like a half-ass attempt to go find an elk bugle or something. Like they really go with me. And I had them with me for we went on like this 2 week hunt and just kind of close to home here. We were just coming home at night, but anyways, like I'm not kidding you, Tom. Every day we were getting bugles, sometimes multiple elk bugling at us, and it was just like this. One of the best, most vocal seasons I've ever had in the elk woods. It was, and I was coming home and I was like getting on social media, and people are like, "Oh, the elk are silent this year. They're not talking." I'm like, "Man, what are you guys talking about?" Like they're everywhere. I can't. I like it was just like this series of missed opportunities because the bull would go behind this brush or it would get dark right when I could see it. I didn't feel comfortable taking the shot kind of thing, and just all
Yeah.
these circumstances. But what was going on was I think one of the reasons why I feel like it was a more active year for me is I had my girls with me all the time. And so I'd bugle and we'd just sit there and listen, right? And my one of them would nudge me and they, Dad, bugle down there, down there, down there. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I didn't hear a bugle. They're like, oh no, it's bugle. We need to go that way. So I'd just kind of follow their lead. We'd get a little closer. I'd let off another bugle, and no kidding, man, we'd be right up in an elk, and he'd be bugling his head off at us, and that's how bad my hearing has gotten, and a lot of it is I mean, it is 99% because of firearms, and I destroyed my I have like the hearing of an 80-year-old man. It's nuts. So that's why I wear these big fat headphones when I record. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to hear you on these regular speakers.
Oh, yeah.
So
No, I get it. For me, it's certain tones, like
yeah,
certain
tones. Yep.
tones, like like for me, I can hear a lot. I still can hear elk bugle better than my brother, and
Can you?
he doesn't have tinnitus, but like I can still like I can hear high pitch, but I think it's because we were shooting the 338 ultras and they were muzzle brakes. It was the low
Mm.
pitch boom.
Oh
And so
yeah.
like I so for me it's the lower volume stuff. Like if somebody has a deep voice, like all of a sudden like I'm like, what did you say?
Really? See,
Yeah,
I can hear the deep voices. It's the high
yeah,
pitch stuff. Like we were
I
talking
get it.
about remodeling our home. We got this fancy oven stove thing, gas stove. Oh, don't let Biden hear that. I do have a gas stove in my house to cook on. But anyways, so it does all these little songs when it's like preheated. The oven's preheated, and it even like texts my wife on her phone, "Hey, it's ready to, it's preheated." And
Oh man, you're
they
high
can.
tech, man.
Oh, it's way beyond me. I don't do any of that. I just do it the old-fashioned way and turn the dial. But we'll be
Yeah.
upstairs, and my wife will hear the sound this oven's making, and I'll be in the kitchen and I don't hear it and she can hear it upstairs. It's insanity. So my ears are really bad. But oh, that's what I was going to ask you with the that's why when you see me looking down, I'm just taking a bunch of notes. So I have a Banish suppressor from Silencer Central. And I've been using that, and what I noticed with coyotes is like if I get two coyotes coming in and I shoot at one, the other one doesn't know where, like it hears the shot, but it doesn't know where it came from. It can't pinpoint it, like disorients the sound or something. And so the second coyote will just like stop and stand and start looking around and give me a second shot on him. And so I was curious if that was a case. I don't know what silencer you use, but I was just curious if using a suppressor, if that was a case with wolves, where if you crank off a shot on one, and I don't know if you ever, because it's so thick where you're hunting, maybe you don't even see more than one at a time. But talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I mean, just like that story with the four wolves, and if you guys have seen the video, but it just kind of seen it at my standpoint, I was pretty much 10 steps away from those wolves when they were coming in. They were coming at a dead
Oh
run.
yeah.
And, and I didn't know this later. Thankfully, I had a video camera rolling because I didn't know there was actually five in the group. That's why I felt like I would have continued calling other members of the pack if that fifth one didn't get away. And I had no clue is there, but if you slow motion it, you'll see a fifth one slips out.
Oh really?
And yeah, and it's kind of weird. They like trade places. So it was like there was like 2 seconds where a fifth one came in and there's five heads. in one screen. And then when I first shot, one disappeared. He sensed something immediately when I pulled the trigger, so he bounced. But those other ones, I'm 10 yards away, and they were so focused on each other. The sound didn't do anything, and I just kept shooting.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's still a sound when you shoot a suppressor, but for the yipping and stuff that was going on with the wolves, it was louder. And so
Yeah.
they were looking
Yeah.
at me, they were looking at each other the whole time. And then that one, like you said, that there was the one that never got the video of this one, because when I had the camera set up, I just had it set up on that old logging road. One ran under a tree, and then he like poked out his head, like it was just like, is the coast clear? And he poked his head. He's just like, he knew something was up, and he's just like, is the coast clear? And I'm like, just slammed him. I know that sounds bad, but it was so awesome.
No, that's awesome. I love when I talk to people that are just like super passionate like you are. And people listening to this don't see the video, but Tom's face just lights up when he's talking about this stuff. And I love that kind of stuff.
Well, I'm reliving the
That's
moment in my
great.
head, because
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't happen, to have four at one time. That's pretty hard to beat,
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
but yeah, but it did the same thing, but then also using that same suppressor. And so it's just a simple 6-inch suppressor from Gunworks. I have an 8-inch too, but I've just noticed there's not much of a difference between the 8 and the 6. It helps a
Yeah.
little bit, but like, I'm trying to shed weight too. But there was a muley, so there's two nice muley bucks in Colorado, and we made the decision, okay, I'll shoot my buck first. And he's like, the buck I was after, he was a bigger buck, but he was super narrow. The buck that my friend wanted, he was a pretty buck, good forks, wide, but he was kind of a little more spindly, and he was a smaller deer. So that we kind of made the decision, okay. So I shot first, and we had to do a quick shuffle. Like, I gave him the gun, I jumped on the camera, and I was like, and his buck didn't even get out of its bed. I thought as soon as I shot
Mm-hmm.
I thought his buck was going to jump up out of his bed. His buck was still laying down and just chilling. And,
Interesting. Yeah.
and so then he still had plenty of time, and he still had to wait. There was a tree behind the kill zone, so he had to wait for the deer to stand up and walk out before he got a shot in his. But we killed 2 deer, 2 decent bucks right there. Uh, Same thing with mountain goats on Kodiak Island. It was just Kodiak.
Yeah.
I'm trying to not be too much myself here, but maybe I should.
No, just be yourself. Yeah.
It was just
Yeah.
okay. But when I'm saying the term slaughterfest, it was awesome. We got a group of mountain goats, and we all had mountain goat tags, and we were just shooting a mountain goat, passing the gun to the next person. It was the same thing with blacktails. It was just like a video game. We're on Kodiak Island. There's blacktails running back and forth.
God,
We
that'd be
just passed
fun.
the gun on, and
Uh-huh.
nothing's running away from the suppressor.
Yeah.
Nothing's running away from it, And I know for a fact, if you had a muzzle brake, or just not even or just nothing on the end at all,
Just a factory barrel. Yeah.
just factory barrel, boom, everything runs off,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's the tough thing. And I do want to do a hunt. I am planning to do a hunt in Canada on wolves. I'm just curious and trying that out, just for the heck of it, just something new. But the problem is you can't use a suppressor in Canada.
Oh, you
So,
can't?
no.
Oh, I didn't know that. Sorry to the Canadian listeners. No silencer essential for you. I didn't know that. No, but it's a tool that, like, I was super unfamiliar with this whole setup with a suppressor, and it's just what I think what I'll do is I've got this Savage that I put the banish on from the suppressor on. And I don't know, now that you said that, I don't know if mine's an 6 or an 8-inch. I want to say it's an 8-inch. But I actually don't know.
I still wear air protection with mine if I can. I could usually get away with one shot.
But those earbuds that you were talking about, do you wear those, and that doubles as ear protection?
Yeah.
And so if you have that, and then if you've got the suppressor, like that's why I was going to say I ought to make a video where I'll go out and I'll shoot this Savage without the suppressor, and then I'll screw it on real quick and then shoot with the suppressor, so people can like hear it audio. It's not, for like for those of you that have only seen or witnessed those on like from Hollywood. It's not that quiet. You don't walk around and it's like ding ding. It's not like that, but it does disorient the sound. So anyway, that'd be an interesting video. Maybe I'll do that and throw it out on YouTube. You should do that and put it out on your YouTube, man. Yours is way bigger than mine.
Yeah, we do need to do that. What we need to do is that, I mean, we don't have those slow motion cameras. Well, I guess some GoPros can handle it, but I
Uh-huh.
do want to do some like really fun slow motion stuff. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's
Yeah.
kind of like the next step. And we got 4K videos and stuff, but I want to get really into that slow motion stuff, even on animals when we're shooting, just like see the bullet slow motion hit the animal, the ripple effect, and we need to get more into that. It's sometimes
That'd
just
be fun.
you can only carry so much camera equipment.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever tried the Tacticams?
Yeah, so I did. So my mule deer buck I killed this fall, I tacticam that one.
Did you?
Yeah.
I'm terrible at filming hunts, but I was gonna what was I gonna ask you? We're just talking about filming that. So shoot, man, I totally went blank there.
We
That
were talking
doesn't
about the cams, and I shot a mule deer with it.
Yeah, yeah, using the Tacticams and doing I think I was gonna anyway, well whatever, it's gone now. It wasn't Tacticam related. I do use those little Tacticams. And now that I'm in Montana, I can actually hook that if I'm on my Montana, because you can't do this in Idaho, but in Montana you could put what is called the FCS, or no, I'm sorry, FTS attachment to your scope, and the FTS stands for film through scope, and then you put the Tacticam on that. It adds a little bit of weight to your rifle. But it makes it so that you still see normal through your scope, but it's also filming through your scope, and that's a cool way. Maybe if you can somehow get a slow mo of that, because it'd be um, obviously a lot closer. But you know what I'm gonna do, man? And I'm thinking about doing this on video just to really shame myself and see how this goes. But I'm gonna pick up a left-handed bow. Actually, I want to get your take on this because you're a good shot, man. Um, so I'm hopelessly left-eye dominant. I'm very left-eye dominant, but I was trained both growing up as a hunter and then in the military. I was a Marine rifleman, so we shot and shot and shot and shot. So I shot all right-eyed, and I don't have a problem with my right eye. Or with a rifle. I am very confident. I don't generally miss with my rifle. But that confidence doesn't transfer to my bow. I'm like good with a bow, but I feel like I'm like I can't seem to get over this hump of like I'm adequate with a bow, but I'm not like super lethal. And so I'm considering switching to a left-eyed or a left-handed bow and trying to use my dominant eye because a lot of the old timers are telling me that that's kind of what I need to do. What are your thoughts on that? What do you have? Do you have like
Yeah, I think
experience
you're
or
supposed
feedback?
to. I mean, I have to ask Tana. I think she's got the same issue, and so
Does
I,
she?
I think so. So she'd be the one to ask, because for
Did
me,
she did she go from shooting right to left?
that's what you're going to have to ask her. Because now I'm thinking of it,
Uh,
I'm pretty sure she is left eye dominant. So I'm gonna now I don't remember. I don't remember. So that would be a question for her. Because for me, I mean, thankfully, I've been naturally. I mean, born, right-handed and right eye dominant, so I
yeah.
don't have that issue. But one thing though, what I think is really fascinating. So our buddy, so he was the guy we used to get our guns built from, Dallas Lane. Really cool guy, and what the he's a marksman, and I
Hmm.
learned a lot from him, and Travis has as well. And he trained, or his dad taught him to shoot both hands, so
With a
he
rifle or bow?
with a
Rifle?
rifle,
Rifle?
so he can, chasing coyotes around and shooting, out of the
Yeah.
rig and fields and stuff. But
That's
like,
pretty
I mean,
cool.
but he can straight up, if he wanted to shoot an elk, he could shoot it with his left hand, with his left eye dominant, or I mean, he could use both. So he just trained himself to use both sides. And so,
Hmm.
and with the bow, I'm not sure. I'd have to ask Dallas if he learned how to do that. But I know with the rifle he did, and he said it really benefited him,
Really?
with with his marksmanship. Yeah. For me, I've never tried. I've always been afraid to.
Yeah, I kind of have too, man. It's been like this intimidating thing, but thing is, I'm right-handed, but I am very left eye dominant, and so it's worth it to me to at least try to maybe see if, like, again, with like, I'm a third of what they call in the Marines. I'm a third award expert rifleman. I mean, I can shoot really well with a rifle, and I want that same confidence with a bow, and I just don't have it. And it's been like really frustrating for me for a long time because I've been a bow hunter a long time, man. But I don't have that confidence. Like, I don't want to go to some 3D range with a bunch of pros because I think they'll like laugh at me, even
Well,
though.
and I think coming back to your point though too is like, sometimes when I'm glassing, my right eye starts getting tired, so I try to switch to my left eye.
Hmm.
Can't, and there's a huge difference in what I can like pick up. And both eyes are good. I've got LASIK eye surgery, so like my eyes are really good. Um, but my left eye, it just doesn't pick up what my right eye can, like
Yeah,
my right eye is just, it is obviously the dominant one. So my thoughts would be to try it out,
I'm
and
gonna try it, man. And here's my message to the listeners. If Because I've read through like the forums and blogs and stuff till I'm blue in the face on this topic, and there's like opinions are all over the place. Like, some people are like, no, don't do it, no, do it. It's just all over the place. So what I want to hear from is any of you listeners out there that have actually done what I'm talking about. Either you started out left-handed and switched to right-handed bow, or you started out right and are have switched to left-handed. I want to hear your feedback. Jim at thewesternhuntsman.com is my email. If you guys don't mind, send me your thoughts on that, because it's something I'm seriously considering. And if you haven't ever done it, no offense, but I don't want, like, you ever see these posts? People are like, what kind of gun should I take into grizzly country while I'm bow hunting? And it's like, all these people have these opinions on what the best firearm is for grizzly protection. And yet none of those people have ever actually shot a grizzly with one of these sidearms. And it's like that, it doesn't have a lot of credibility. So I want to hear from somebody, and I'm not trying to be rude with that, guys, but I'd rather hear from people that have actually done that. So send me an email at jim@thewesternhuntsman.com. All right, Tom, let's shift gears here a little bit. I told you we were going to talk about spring bear hunting, and we got on all sorts of rabbit trails right there, which is good.
yeah.
It's good stuff. Can you give us, so I know where you, well, I don't know where you hunt, but I know what unit you hunt in a lot. And I'm pretty familiar with it. And it's a really, I would say it's a very diverse unit, if that makes sense. So this is why I feel like you have a lot to offer with this. Um, Spring Bear is just around the corner, and there's a lot of people every year. There's a lot of people that like want to start dipping their toes into spring bear hunting, and then you have like a lot of them stick around and they stay bear hunters, and a lot of them like get out of it. It's not their thing, you know. Um, how do you feel about spring bear hunting? Do you even like bear hunting, Tom?
I enjoy it. It's one of those things. I think for me, I love spring. Like I love it's an excuse to get out because I've killed a lot of our family's killed a lot of bears. And so it's like what can I do with another bear hide? You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like that's I think for me the reason why I love it so much is just like spring is almost like that symbolism of life where everything's just so green. The creeks, you could just hear all the runoff the creeks, just the
Yeah.
sound of just like the earth coming back to life again after winter.
Yeah, I know, man. I
And
love it.
yeah, so it just gives me an excuse to get out, just kind of like I said, like it's some like the springtime starts getting really busy, a lot to do, but then it's just like you're always making that time to just chase those spring bears, and it just kind of for me, it kind of like warms me up for the fall. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
just like, you know, like wearing, like uh, oiling the joints again,
Yeah.
and, and just getting the excitement and killing something again, so you don't go an entire year and then it's like archery season elk and you're back. Oh shoot, I haven't killed an animal in a full year. It's like, okay, you're, it's just, it helps with practice. And I do enjoy chasing bears. It's fun. But like I said, it's just like, I can't I don't have another place for another bear hide.
Well,
But
do you eat the meat or do you not take the meat?
sometimes,
Do you?
sometimes,
See, I love it, man. It's one of my favorite game meats.
so my brother on his bear last year, he kept his meat. And so last year I just kept the hide. I had a really pretty hide and I kept my hide, but Trav, he kept the hide and the meat. And he's been really digging those bear smokies. And
Oh
I
yeah.
honestly, I mean, I'm going to be honest, and I've eaten a lot of different animals. My favorite smokies to this day have been black bear
Yeah.
smokies. They are a little bit greasy, but that's kind of what a smoky is, right? Like it's supposed to
Yeah,
have that.
so is like a pork smoky, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, my buddy Jacob Denham, he introduced me to the bear smoky, and that's kind of my favorite thing. But breakfast sausage is another really good one to do with
yeah,
bear. Um, but I couldn't agree more. Like spring is this rebirth. Everybody talks about, like when it's New Year's Day and they're like, "Oh, it's new year, new me" kind of thing, and they're, resetting. It doesn't happen for me then. It's always spring, and it's like this rebirth, this forget about the sins of the previous year. Here is your reset. Here is your rebirth to a new year on the mountain, and all the things, all the mistakes you made last year, all they did was make you better for this year. And that spring is like this reminder to get out there and knock the cobwebs off your muscles and your the sedentary life that a lot of us get into throughout the winter months, and really get out there and just start living again out in the wild country. And that's what I love about spring. And that's why I think spring bear is so much fun. Um,
yeah.
and you've killed some nice bears. I kind of want to ask you for like, do you have for the guys that I was referring to, they're just going to be getting into it this year. They're maybe going to go out and they're going to be doing spot and stock because I don't know that you probably don't do a lot of baiting up there, do you?
No, we don't bait.
Yeah, and so and I know you guys have a lot of houndsmen up there, but well, I mean, I talk like you're so far away. I think where you're, I don't know if you're talking about the new place you were talking about before we hit record, but like Tom is now officially going to be like less than an hour from me, and that is pretty cool. So next time, Tom, when this remodel is done here, you're going to have to come into the studio. Deal?
Yeah, I would like that. Yeah,
Okay, cool. Um, Oh, spring bear. What can you give everybody like a general? Where do you find bears? Where can people that have they don't have a ton of bear experience locating spring bear? Can you give them like what if you were going out this year to locate some bears? What are you looking for, and where are you going to find these bears at?
so I think it kind of goes back to just like, you know, when anytime I hunt an animal, it could be a wolf, a deer, an elk, I have to go back to what does it, keeps an animal alive? Like, what's their food source? What's their shelter? And what's their safety? And so, what comes to mind in the spring, like, what's the food source that a bear eats in the spring? What people don't know is that bears are they eat a lot of plants. Like, and I've seen them I mean, they're actually, I've got a bear skull right here. Um, but their teeth are just so much different than what would be like an elk or a deer. And so rather than a deer, and it's chewing and it kind of chews its cud, like a bear, I watch them just grab grass and grab and rip. And I've just seen them do that. But they'll just eat.
Is that a
eat.
North Idaho bear?
Yeah, that's an Idaho bear.
Yeah, sweet bear, man. Let me look. Yeah, can you put it a little closer?
That's a spring. Wow. About
Yeah.
what he weighed, but he's definitely a big old mature boar.
Heck yeah, man. That's a great bear.
Yeah,
Huh.
he was a 6-footer.
Heck yeah.
15. He was aged 15 years old.
No kidding.
Yeah, he was an
You're
old
like,
one.
oh, let me grab this little bear skull here, and you show that. I'm like, like, where did he get that thing?
Yeah. I actually had a little
You stud, you.
freak out. I had a freak out moment. Like, I mean, he was a color faced bear. When I shot him, I started walking up. He had some long claws. I'm just like, oh no! Like, I had
Kill the grizzly.
a butterfly moment where my heart fluttered, and then I walked in like, no, it's a black bear. It was just this, some of those bears when they first get out of the den, they haven't they haven't been digging at all winter long, and so their claws are extra long.
Yeah.
And I've had some people panic and send me photos too, but I don't know. I think I messed up. And I'm like, no, you didn't. That's a black bear. It's just
Yeah.
just their claws. They just haven't started wearing them down just yet, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but what was I going with that? What were we talking about again about
Oh,
bears?
we were talking
Oh, yeah,
about
everything. So,
the
okay. So food
vegetation.
source.
Yep. Yep. Food
Um,
source.
so that mess thing about meat, you know, a bear first comes out of den. He needs food. And so another thing that's going on in the springtime is fawns are being dropped. And so I've seen, especially, I don't see it a lot with sows and cubs, but I see with big boars where they'll follow elk herds around and they'll follow mule deer herds around. And as soon as one is born, I don't know. Like I know when fawns are born, they're supposed to have no scent on them, but man, it's almost like they know something was born because all of a sudden you'll see the herd freaking out right on the edge of this opening, and the bear's just looking at every branch, like
Yeah.
every patch of brush, like he knows him. He knows a fawn or a calf has been dropped, and we've shot two bears off of our family has shot two bears off of dead calves.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and my brother and his friend, like there's actually a pretty cool Stuck and Rod episode where my brother and his friend watched a bear, like you saw a cow and a bear chasing them each other, and then when they
Mm-hmm.
got up there, he just was taking his bite on the calf, and they shot it off the calf, and the calf was just freshly dead, not
Wow.
eaten at all. But those big boars will follow a herd all spring. You know, people don't realize how many calves those bears will kill. And so a
Mm-hmm.
lot of what I do for bear hunting too is it is my part and part of management too. I feel like it's an obligation to fill my bear tag every year. You know, I don't feel like it's the same thing with wolf hunting, same with mountain lion hunt. I don't feel like I deserve hunting elk or deer if I don't put in my time to hunt a predator. Yeah, that's just my logic and how I go about things. But it's like that's my part in giving back to nature. You know, in order for me to fit in, I have to take a predator out of the mix.
Yeah.
So
I think I've heard you reference that kind of philosophy before. And it's not, you're not wrong. You're definitely not wrong. Um, we all as hunters, we do have this obligation. We have an obligation to the future of hunting and to our conservation efforts. And so that's a good way to look at it. I don't deserve to hunt elk unless I can put in some time. Doesn't mean you have to kill a predator, but at least put in some time trying to.
well, I just
And
feel like, and for non-residents that come here, when non-residents come here, all I ask them to do is pick up predator tags, pick up wolf tags, pick up mountain lion tags. If
yeah,
an opportunity comes up, get it done. You'll like that's what they can do. They don't have to pursue predators. You know, I know that everybody has like a time limit, right? Not like me. I like to take off a lot of time to hunt. A lot of people, they have a lot of work they have to do, and they have 1 week to kill an elk when they come to Idaho and they get a non-resident elk tag. They come to Idaho, and you know what hurts me is when they have the chance to kill a predator, but they didn't obtain the tags because they just didn't feel like they needed to.
yeah,
Oh yeah, I saw a wolf while I was elk hunting, but I didn't kill it because I didn't pick up a tag. It's like,
which is insane because they're so cheap.
yeah, they're so cheap. Just pick them up, and you're doing your part. We will thank you tenfold. You know, like the nature will thank you tenfold if you
Hmm.
kill. You know, like one wolf is responsible for on average 20 elk a year. So you have to imagine
Yep.
that. You know, like for me, I've killed in my entire life, I've killed 23 bull elk. So me just killing one wolf, that just pretty much compensated for how many elk I've killed in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Just killing one wolf.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
a good way
people
to
say,
look at
well,
it. Yeah.
if you want to save the elk, then why are you killing them? It's like, well, I kill one wolf. That's 20
Yeah.
elk in a year right there. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh, that whole argument. Oh, what that people do not the layman does not understand the difference between preservation and conservation. And because I get that a lot too, because I'll interact with a lot of these anti-hunting groups on like social media.
oh,
They'll post something and my goal is I try to be nice at first just so I could try to rope them into coming in and like debating me on my podcast. They never agree to it. They never do it. because they simply don't have. You cannot have an actual discussion of factual data and try to put emotion up against that, because it's not going to win. It's just like a lot of things in life. But anyway, that's what they always say. Oh, you're some defender of wildlife, but yet you go out there and kill them. Well, the death of this one animal just created life for multiple other species and other animals, and allowing the younger to have this genes diversity of passing down. I go into a lot of different things. I won't bore everybody to death with that, but it's an interesting argument.
It is definitely, and but yeah, getting back to it, like bears are part of it. Bears are part about predator management, and they're a killer.
I've seen some insane data on the amount of whitetail, mule deer, and elk fawns that black bears take out, and that's going to be super regionally dependent too. Like, obviously, there's more black bears in certain areas of the country than there are others, so that's why. But in like where the country you and I live in, we have a lot of black bears here, and so one black bear can make a very big difference.
Yeah, well, the biggest problem too is that people use the logic of, if a predator runs out of its food source, their population drops. The problem with the black bear or a bear in general is that they are not required for meat to survive.
Yeah, and they're not a mountain lion. Yeah.
So if if the deer and elk population is low, the bear population could still be high because they still have the food source. So that's the problem. And I've hunted areas where the grizzly population is just so extreme. I just don't know how there's a living elk. In fact, there's one area where we literally have more grizzly photos than elk photos. And I'm just like, I don't understand how any elk
is that in Idaho?
Yeah, it's
wow.
one of our elk hunting spots that we have.
Wow.
And it's so out of control. And on a really good huckleberry year, we see a lot of grizzlies because they're all above tree line. And I mean, they're just dots on hillsides, and they're just like,
yeah.
I mean, a combination of grizzlies and black bears, but I'd say 1 week time, Travis and I counted 13 grizzlies.
13 sightings or 13 different grizzlies?
13 different grizzlies.
Holy smokes.
And we tried the best we can. I mean, maybe we recite the same grizzly, but some would have collars. It would be like we saw a sow. There was a sow with 3 cubs. She had a collar. Then we saw a sow with 2 cubs. She did not have a collar. So that was an obvious different grizz.
Different. Yep.
So just think of that right there. So a sow with 3 grizz. Boom. Sow with 2 grizz. Boom. That's 7 right there. We saw a big, massive boar. On one, and I'm pretty convinced there were 2 separate boars. We saw a big boar that actually almost went head to head with that sow and 3 cubs. Like she freaked out. Like I think the wind was blowing right for her to where you heard her like running, and you could hear her when they run. They have like this. You can hear their lungs, the voice.
Yeah. I was gonna say like somebody punched it in the stomach.
Yeah, that's the sound. You could hear. It's almost like you can hear their diaphragm when they run. And her and the cubs ran up, and you can hear echo the canyon when she was doing that. And that boar came running and looking around because, we know what happens if he gets a hold of those cubs.
Oh yeah.
But then the other time, and this was all in the same week. My brother archeried a bear, or sorry, not archeried a bear. He archeried an elk. So we deboned the elk. Packed it back to our camp with our horses and mules. The next day, we were hiking up the draw, like the ridge. It was my turn to hunt now, because Travis's tag was filmed, and this was the complete opposite side of a completely different drainage. So we were convinced this was a different boar. We were pretty convinced. But we see this big boar just come out, just completely out of nowhere, with his nose in the air, and he was heading right for Travis's elk carcass.
Really?
But he smelled. I mean, this is miles. We're like on top of we're looking down one draw. There's the bear, and we're looking down the other draw, and you can see Travis' gut pile at the bottom of this basin. And this bear's nose is in the air, and I'm just like, surely he's not smelling that gut pile. But his nose is in the air, and he is like moving, and he's walking like this, really slow. This big grizz is. This is an Idaho grizz, And in like 15 minutes, I swear that thing covered a couple miles. I mean, he would just ground so fast with his stride, and he made it over that draw, and he was headed for that gut pile. Well, here's the problem. I mean, we just got lucky enough to where we called the bull up pretty close to camp. In the same frame of looking at that grizz, the gut pile, there's our camp not too far away with the quarters hanging in the trees.
Oh
And it's
no.
like, we better just pack out and then come back,
Yeah.
So we packed the quarters out. We actually ended up coming back to camp and hunted some more.
Oh, good.
So
Wow,
but
man, that's crazy.
Let's get the
I don't
quarters
think.
out.
Yeah.
So we had to pack out with the horses and mules back when we had horses and mules. And also that was back before the wolves were bad too. So I mean, we were still seeing a fair amount of elk in the country, but man, yeah, there's grizzly bears and black bears. They can be hard on elk and deer populations for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's like what you were saying. Once if we have a really bad winter and the winter kill on our elk and deer, is fairly severe. Those calves and fawns that drop that spring, there's a percentage of them that are going to be taken out by the bears, whether it's a black bear or grizzly bear. But then you have so what happens is it makes it that much harder for our elk and deer to recover from those species with that large of a population, and it scares me with these grizzly bears, man. It just not just I don't mean I'm scared of grizzly. Well, that's not true. I am scared of grizzly bears. I don't want to run into them. What scares me with grizzly bears is we have no control / management mechanism. That the endangered species, man, I am totally drawing a blank. Why do I keep drawing blanks tonight? Is it Friday night?
It's Saturday
No,
night.
it's Saturday night. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm mentally worn out Friday night, so I try not to
Poor guy.
record on. Yeah, it's been a long week kind of thing. Anyway, the ESA has been like hijacked, but from these activist groups, is the point what I was trying to say, where they've like molested the meaning and the good nature of what it was designed to do. And so now we have these bears, these grizz that we can't manage. They have no fear of humans. They have no fear of interacting with humans when we're up on the mountains. And not that I think that they need to be terrified of humans, but you've hunted Alaska. The difference in how brown bears react to humans versus down here, and these grizzly bears that just they have nothing to fear here, and that's where I'm starting to get nervous about like what the future in this area that you're talking about, the area that I hunt. It's all grizz country. Hell, I have grizzlies on my property, and the fact that there's just no mechanism for us to react because these pansies have this emotional attachment on an animal that has no actual consequence on their life, but they want to feel like this social justice warrior and save the grizzly bears and promote the lack of management and keeping them on the ESA indefinitely. And so it's just creating like people are literally dying because of that. And we have no recourse. I didn't mean to derail us from black bear hunting, but I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so the problem is that it's just the wrong people once again making decisions. I feel like living out, like, you and I both, we live out in the country. We unfortunately deal with these problems on a daily basis. I personally don't vote, I vote, but I don't vote on things based on things that don't apply to me, right? I don't go to the city and say, this is how you should handle your homeless issues. This is how you should handle, your marijuana issue, whatever issues that the city's doing. I'm not sitting there trying to push agenda there, but for some reason they feel like they have to do that where I live. They feel like they have to, make more problems for me and more problems for you, and they never have to deal with it.
They don't have any consequences. Yeah.
Like, that's why I was telling you I was got in a fight with an apple tree today. There's this old overgrown apple tree, and I live at the base of the mountain there, and the previous owner had a lot of bear issues. So I'm pretty much cutting down every apple tree, getting rid of, because I know there just sucks in every apple tree or every bear.
For 100 miles.
Of course, I was up there this November, and there's a monster grizzly just, I mean, on the mountainside there, and it's like nothing for that bear. I mean, probably in an hour and a half, right where I saw his tracks, in an hour and a half, or I mean, for me, I can hike to where I saw that grizzly track. For a bear, he could probably make it down in a half an hour to where
Mm.
my house is. So it's the same thing. I got grizzlies right there too, and
Oh
so
yeah.
I, it's just like they don't have to deal with these issues, and they're telling us that we have to put up with them, that we can live with them, and they don't realize, like, when they're saying that we're the ones invading in the wildlife space. What do you think the city was? The city was once wildlife habitat.
Yeah.
like like don't blame that on us.
And
We
what did what did the natives do? Right? I mean, like humans are not new to the North American continent. That's another concept that always drives me crazy. As if the structural system and society that we have now yes, I would make the agreement that it is more of it's more infringing on wildlife habitat. But there were people here. There have been people here for thousands of years. We're not the first people to inhabit. Humans are not detached from Mother Nature. Humans are part of Mother Nature. And we choose to have these great big urban centers where we have completely annihilated any wildlife habitat, with the exception of coyotes we could probably put coyotes on the moon and they'd colonize. But every other species, we've destroyed winter habitat. We've destroyed winter range for several ungulate species. We have encroached into all these areas that was formerly habitat for name your species. I get some of that, but the cities have done that to a much greater extent. The like Salt Lake Valley, there's more people in the Salt Lake Valley than the entire state of Montana. Okay. And I look at the Salt Lake Valley, and I'm using that because we were both just there for the expo. That used to be major winter range for mule deer and elk. Okay. That there is no range there anymore. There is no, in fact, I wonder, like when I was a kid, I used to be able to go out to the west side of the Salt Lake Valley, and I'd be able to find these monster mule deers out by Kennecott. People living in Utah know what I'm talking about. I don't know if those exist anymore. I'd be super curious to know if they exist. But to sit there and say that it's our fault because we live out in the sticks, the thing is we are living closer to nature and how humans have always lived out in these areas than anybody living in some big city. We don't put big freeways and airports and high schools and all these massive monstrosity infrastructure type facilities and buildings and development all over the place. I love the point that you made there. I obviously you can see it gets me pretty fired up. um but I am sick of having to deal with the consequences of people making decisions on our lifestyle that don't have any consequences. How nice would it be to live in downtown Boston and say, I love grizzly bears. They need to stay on the endangered species list, and I'm going to go get a petition of 200,000 of my neighbors to sign this list so that the government knows that they shouldn't be delisted, and we're going to feel good about ourselves, like we have done a greater good for the wildlife, and yet they have no consequence. There's no consequence to those actions, and they couldn't be more further removed from the reality on the ground, from folks like us, who I literally worry if my kids get out of the sight and they're teenagers. If I can't see them from the house, I'm worried because we have so many grizzly bears coming through here. Sorry, I'm worried about it. You know?
Yeah, no, same here. Yeah, for me, we're seeing it happen over and over again, and it's happening more this year than I've seen ever before. We're just like our rights are getting taken left to right, and it does scare me quite a bit. It does scare me about the future of our children. I mean, it's a bad thing to say, and I'll say it anyways. But I've thought of, like, well, what if, like, I think in a sense, like, I look at Canada, right, and there's just so much open country that's untouched. There's just to hunt and stuff, but I'm like, the politics are even worse over there. And so I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
I guess I'll just stay in America. I'm grateful to be an American. So And I think Canada is a cool. I mean, just because I've been in Canada a lot and stuff, and I have friends up there, and
Hmm.
I think there's just some beautiful habitat, really cool hunting up there. I feel bad for the things that they have to go through as well, because for us, their Toronto is our California.
Yeah,
their
for
Toronto
sure.
is making all their decisions for them, and they don't have a clue in what's going on in nature. And and so, like, for me, it's the same thing where it's like, like mountain lions are, I mean, obviously that's another thing that's going on. They're trying to ban hound hunting,
Hmm.
right? They
Yep.
don't realize, like I was telling my
Aren't
wife
like on a
this,
federal level, right?
they were trying. I mean,
Yeah.
I think they're at least trying to get Colorado, but it's like, man, like mountain lions, if you can't manage them with hounds, it's pretty hard to manage a mountain lion.
Yeah.
And I'll use Idaho as an example, especially where, the country we live, where, look, there's no quota. We have no quota on mountain lions. Each person's allowed a mountain lion tag a year. Guess what? We still have mountain lions. They're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
endangered.
We still have a ton of mountain, and I
We
say
still have
that
a ton of
constantly
mountain
on this
lions.
show. Yeah.
And so yeah, is the quality better in those areas where there's quotas like Montana? Absolutely. Like that there is better quality, but I mean Montana hunts mountain lions pretty good too. Just not as much as Idaho does. Uh, But like then you look at Washington where there's no hounds being used at all. I mean, you're crossing mountain lion tracks left to right.
Hmm.
My kids, like I wouldn't feel safe with my kid being in the woods. My kids sound a lot like the predator calls that I use to call them
Yeah.
mountain
Yeah.
animals.
Right. When
And
they're
so
young,
like
especially. Yep.
and so I'm like, what's a mountain lion to come in and check out my screaming child? This sounds just like a dying rabbit.
I
You
know, right? It really does. And
Yeah.
I just the thing that troubles me a lot too, Tom, when I don't mean to get super political with this kind of stuff, but the ideals of the American founding are based on this thing where they knew that a big centralized government making decisions for everybody would make it so that the further out and the isolated or the things in back in those days. Let's take the colonial America. Life in Boston, Massachusetts was way different than Charleston, South Carolina, right? And so these decisions they set it up this way. This is why we have a constitutional republic. It's set up in a way that it is the local decision making that has the final say. That is how it is supposed to be. Like a school district should be the final say as to how they spend their annual budget, not people in Washington, D.C., because each school district in each region of the country has very different needs and necessities and priorities and values. And so that's why the founders set up the country in this way where your state and local governments are supposed to be the ones that had the final say, and they were actually the easiest to oust politicians that they didn't like. It's not supposed to have this big federal bureaucratic system where these bureaucrats get into Washington D.C. and it's like impossible to get rid of them, but yet they're making decisions on something that they don't know jack shit about, and that's where we've gotten ourselves into trouble. We are allowing people that don't live our lifestyle to manage our lifestyle, and what's worse and what's happening lately, what I've been noticing, actually not lately, this is something that's been going on a long time in when we narrow it down to like our niche life, you and I, we are outdoorsmen, we're sportsmen, we're hunters, we kind of pride ourselves on this self-reliant way of life where we go out and we create our own destiny on the mountain. This is what we pursue, this is how we live, this is what fulfills us, right? But yet we allow this anti-hunting, um, very extreme activist group with completely different value sets, completely different lifestyles. These are people that can get on their phone and have a pizza delivered in 15 minutes or it's free. A completely different life than what we know. And they are making decisions and defining us because they're activists and we're not activists. All we want to do is live our life and live this lifestyle of freedom and self-reliance, right? But yet they're out there online and on social media calling us names and saying what we are doing is so wrong, and we don't have any recourse because we're so busy caught up in our own life. we allow them to define us. And that's what I think we need to change. We need to stop allowing these activists with completely different value sets define who we are. And I've been talking about this a lot this winter. What do you think about that? What I kind of threw a lot at you there.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
I feel like with anybody, like I try to more like with wildlife, sometimes I try to understand people too in a lot of ways. I feel like people that try to make changes like that, they're not content with their own life. And, in some way they're not happy. Why is it that the people that are not content and are loud and obnoxious are the ones that have the louder voice? For
Yeah.
me, I'm very content with my life. Like I love living out here. I want to stay out here. And the farther I move away from civilization, the happier I am. And
That's why we get along so well.
yeah, so there you go. And so I really like this lifestyle. And the problem is these people, like, they're just not happy or content with their life. They feel like they have to make changes. They thought they can't make changes. Oh,
I just no, I shut the
okay.
video. You were cutting out there, so when I turn my video off, it lets you catch up. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Keep going with your point there.
Okay, no, so I feel like what happens is like they can't control their own life, right? Like when you lose control of your own life, you feel like you have to control someone else's for you to feel satisfaction. And
I've
I've
never
seen
thought of
this
it that way. I love
and I
that point, Tom.
well, I say this because I've seen these move-ins, right? I've worked for these people. Like, they show up and I'm like, they want a lot of work done on their property. So I come up and they left their original place. Not all of them. Some of them moved for the right reasons, right? They saw like, oh, I have the same views. I want to move here because I'm also very strong conservative. I love the hunt. I love the outdoors. While others, they weren't content where they're at, and they moved here thinking that this is going to change their life, and they're still not
Yeah.
content. So they still try to make changes make everybody change around them so that they feel happy and comfortable. And it's like you are responsible for your own happiness. That's the most important thing for people to realize, and including these people that live in the city. Some people are content living in the city. I think my
Yeah.
wife was, but I'm also seeing her like, so I married a city girl, but the longer she's married to me, and I don't know if I'm just rubbing off on her, but she's more and more enjoying being away from the city and being more out in the country. She was even going on a couple days ago about being straight off grid. I'm like,
Oh wow.
I was like, hold off, like we'll see how you like this first before you start going really
Stepping
off.
stones, stepping
Yeah.
stones for
But she was
baby
talking,
steps. That's what I meant.
but she's really enjoying, like she's realizing how busy and how like busy the life of the city is, um and and it's not that there's a lot of good people in the city. There's a lot of good people in the world.
Well,
But when you're in a population that's so high, you're going to deal with people that are negative, and then like I said, the most negative people are the ones that are the most loud and obnoxious.
yes.
They're going
And
to
I
share. Yeah.
think that that's a lot of where this comes from, Tom, is I don't think humans were meant to live where, okay, so my property is roughly 15 acres. If you put this chunk of land in downtown Denver or New York or Atlanta, Georgia, or something like that, you could potentially have a couple of thousand people living on this 15 acres, right?
Yeah.
When you're talking about these skyscraping, apartment buildings and blah, blah, blah. One thing I want to clarify, on this topic is sometimes I feel like maybe people might misconstrue me picking on anybody that lives within city limits of anywhere. That's not the point here. There are some very much very well accomplished hunters and outdoorsmen that live in cities. The difference is they understand the world outside of their little what we would call a bubble. Like I have to visit big cities often for my day job. And so I know what it's like to be there. I know I experience a lot of it. I've lived in a couple of big cities in my life. So it's not like I'm coming at this from somebody who doesn't know that side of it. And there's a lot of really great outdoorsmen that get it done every year that could talk about elk behavior or bear behavior, and they can notch tags every single year. They are every bit as good at being an outdoorsman as somebody like you and I who live out here, right? And so I don't want them to misconstrue what we're talking about from a sense of like disrespecting your lifestyle because you choose to live in some big city. Okay, so that disclaimer's out of the way. Tom, you articulated a fantastic couple of points there. In fact, I've actually never thought of it that way, and I'm glad you said that because I'm gonna like write a lot of that down. Um, but to the last point that you made, the unhappiness that triggers this personality thing or this behavioral thing where people just want to be negative about both their own lives and make everybody else miserable because they feel like if they're miserable, everybody else has got to be miserable. I feel like people were not made, human beings are not supposed to live in such developed areas like Los Angeles. Have you ever flown into like Dallas, Texas? And it's just like as you're coming in at night, I mean, there is no end to the lights, right? And the same with like LA. I've flown into LAX a couple times. There's no end to the lights. They just keep going and going and going. And I just don't think people were meant to live like that. And I think that breeds a lot of anger because a lot of them get in this thing where they live in this bubble where they don't go outside. They don't have any experience with nature. They've never actually seen a grizzly bear in real life. They've only seen it on TV and on Instagram, for example. Maybe they watched a Stuck in the Rut YouTube video and saw one there. But that's their experience with wildlife. And so that unhappiness just comes naturally. And that's I think that's the biggest difference between folks like that and folks like you and I, who you and I are a live and let live kind of breed. We just want to live our own self-reliant life and hunt and fish and raise our kids and live by what moral code we feel is important to us. Where some people, they get in these big urban environments and this groupthink takes over, where they have to feel that it's almost like this herd mentality, where it's like, man, all my neighbors think this way, so I better think this way too if I want to fit in. And anybody who doesn't live this way, well, their values are wrong, their morals are wrong, the way they live is wrong, and I'm not going to accept that. And because I feel that way, my emotions are going to outweigh their priority and their values, and so I'm more important to them, and they have to bow down to us, and we need to keep grizzly bears on the endangered species list because it'll offend me if we don't. And that I think that's what happens. That's a trap we've gotten caught into as hunters, and that's what we really need to start fighting against.
Yeah,
Does any of that make sense?
Really good and there's always really good organizations to be a part of. So I'm all about like, okay, like what can we do? And there is power in numbers, and I think that's the problem with us. Like guys like you and me who are just we're content with our lives, but then we're just like we just want to be left alone. But it's like it's hard for us to gain an organization, and actually, I feel like we're finally at this time we're beating these environmentalist groups at their own game, and it's kind of ironic that. As soon as we got the laws and regulations we needed to manage wolves in Idaho, that they were coming back at us and like, oh, you use politics. And it's like, oh, really? like
I know, man.
You released them here. So hypocritical, right? We've just learned to beat them at their own game. But if there's one good thing that's come from the power of social media is guys like you and me are able to get together and form these big groups and to fight back. And well, as before, the people in the city, they lived nut to butt to each other. They're just right there, stacked like sardines in these buildings. And so they were able to make these decisions. And then all of a sudden a new law would show up on our lap. We're like, wait, how does this make sense? Like, oh yeah, we're shutting all these all these mountains are shut down. You can't drive up them anymore. It's like, who made this decision? Oh, a judge in California that's never been up here. Oh, that's interesting. And he'll never see the repercussions of it. He'll never see the outcome of the decision he made. All he saw was a piece of paper signed, hit the mallet next, and
these are the same kind of people that think increasing a tax is going to save us from climate change. It just doesn't, that kind of stuff. That's always the crux too, Tom. kind of part of the, well, I guess it ties into what you just said.
Yeah.
It's like, man, if you look back through conflicts throughout world history, and this is not my original analysis. I got this actually from Scott Reekers over at Eastman's. He talked about this. If you look back through the history of the world and all these different conflicts, there's always one side over here and one side over here, right? If one of those sides would stop fighting, the war would end. Okay. And if the other side could just go home. Yeah. Okay. So there's always that one side. If they just would stop doing what they were doing, everybody would be at peace. Okay. If you could figure out what side that was, that's who the aggressor was. Okay. So we could look at World War II. If Japan and Germany would have stopped invading other countries, the war would have been done and there would have been peace. There would have been no Holocaust. There would have been all okay. So that's a great example. That's kind of what we're talking about here. If you the aggressor is always kind of the one that is creating the conflict. Okay. So and then there's the other side that is more of a defense. We in this case are in the defense. We are not trying to push our life or our values on anybody else. They are pushing their life and our values on us. So now we are the defensive ones. And that, I guess, is kind of the crux of where we probably better leave this cut. We've been going at it here for like 2 hours. But I think that's important for people to understand. When we're talking about this, we're not coming at anybody. We're not trying to attack anybody. What we're doing is we're defending our lifestyle and defending what our right as Americans, as humans, to exist in a pursuit that we choose is closest to our value sets. And we shouldn't have to defend ourselves. And now as hunters, we are finding ourselves in this position where we're constantly having to defend ourselves because of people that won't stop being the aggressor. And that's where we need to identify that that's what the issue is. And I don't know what we do with that, but at least it's like, you have alcoholics. They say that the first step to recovery is acknowledging there's a problem, right? I guess maybe that's kind of part of this is acknowledging that as sportsmen, we are not the aggressor, we are the defender. And if they would stop aggressing their values on, or I don't know if that's the right use of language there, if they would stop pushing their value sets on us and trying to infringe on our right and our lifestyle and our what we consider the pursuit of our own destiny, then this would all end. We wouldn't have a problem. They could go live their life with Ubers and city rail lines and high towers. What do they call those? Skyscrapers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could live that life all they want, but leave us alone. That's what has to happen. They have to stop being the aggressor with what their value sets are. Do you have anything to wrap all that up with? I know I've been keeping you a long time here, Tom.
I think the most important thing is that we just need to learn to get, I think the one thing that these environmentalist groups and all these other groups they're better at than we are is that they know how to get along. And, I think we're seeing a division in the hunting world too, where, like I'll hunt Montana, for example, and I can't tell you the amount of hate that I'll get. I mean, not just publicly, but privately when somebody finds out I shot like a big muley buck in Montana, for example. And I get these people that tell me to go back where I came from. And they're from the complete opposite side of the state. I actually live closer. In fact, the same mountain range. I live next to the same mountain range. Although it's on the other side of the line, it's just hysterical. Yeah. I'm more of a resident than they are, but I mean, yet I'm still an Idaho resident. But anyways, here's somebody that lives on the completely opposite side of the state. Tell me, go back where you came from, get out of my state. And
and interestingly, if they had the opportunity to come to North Idaho to hunt an elk or something, they'd jump all over it. So it's just this that is like this giant bowl of hypocrisy that just keeps
Well, I
It's
think
killing us as hunters.
Yeah, but I think the division is obviously a big thing, and so, but I mean, hunters need to get together, but also people just need to listen to each other. Like I'm actually a pretty open minded person, more open minded than most, and like I said, I got friends in the city. I had to work in the city for a period of time. I spent 2 years in Phoenix, Arizona. I spent a couple years in Texas, a couple years in Virginia. I even spent a little bit time in DC. Once
Nice.
for DC, that was interesting. Um, uh, but it was, for me, like people are a product of their environment, and they come up with their belief system based on their environment, what they grew up around.
Yeah.
And I just wish people understood that and try to pay attention, because typically when stupid laws are being made, it's somebody pressing their ideas on somebody else without knowledge of what they're doing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And even, we're getting to a point now, where, like you said, the endangered species list is being abused. We know, and it's been proven, science, like the wildlife biologists have said it, grizzly bears are not endangered
No.
in the state of Idaho, Montana, Wyoming. They should be off the endangered species list. They should have been off. What was it? Was it 4 or 5 years ago when they were off the list?
Yeah. I mean, they should have been off around the same time the wolves came off it.
Yeah, they should have been
Honestly.
off then. But they've been thrown back on. And it is a propaganda of sorts. And so it is unfortunate. Just people aren't listening, and people have an agenda. And I just wish people would just put their agenda becomes a religion to them, and I'm starting to learn that too, that, people say, oh, I don't have a religion. I'm like, I think naturally we do want to believe in something. And naturally, that's just kind of how we are.
People need a cause. Yeah. People need a cause, whether it's religion or whether it's being a pro wolf activist or whatever. People need to attach themselves to a cause. And when you lack something like religion in your life, you're naturally going to go to something negative that doesn't really hold water.
And what's hard to believe too is that, like, let's say I did grow up in the city. I'm a very passionate person for what the stuff that I do, that I could have been a wolf activist. I could have been,
oh yeah,
save the seals or whatever. Like, I could have been one of those people, but because I grew up here and saw what the wolves did firsthand, I'm like a little bit of the opposite. I still, like you said, I have respect for the wolf. I have respect for all predators in a sense. I understand like their role, but I also know what happens when there's too many of them. And it's a regional thing. So when I get a somebody talks to me and they're like, hey, like, well, in this area, I saw there's wolves and there's good elk numbers. It's like, well, and they name the region, and they're talking about a region like, like the East Canada, for example. Oh, we have moose and wolves. It's like, well, you can't compare your ecosystem to mine. Like, my ecosystem's way different.
Yeah.
Where I live. Go southern Idaho.
Infrastructure makes a big difference.
Way different. Yeah. Infrastructure, habitat. There's so much that's involved. That's why it's community basis. Like when you look at Montana, there's a small portion of Montana that actually has a high wolf population. When you actually really look at it, like pretty much central Montana and on, there's not a lot of wolf activity. So when people are like, oh, well, if you look, Montana has a lot of elk. It's like, yeah, in areas where there's no wolves.
I know, right?
There's a lot of Montana. I enjoy hunting because there's a lot of elk and no wolves.
Yeah.
We live on the side of Montana that has a
lot of wolves.
A lot of wolves. The highest population of wolves. Like, there's packs on top of packs here. And so, I mean, this is a different. So it goes on a, it's all regional. You know what I mean? It's all a regional issue. And so, anyways, I guess we did kind of get off topic and talk a little bit about
so much. I for those of you listening, I asked Tom, I'm like, hey man, let's talk about some spring bear tactics before we kick this thing off. And I think we spent like 30 seconds on that. So sorry about that, folks. We'll have to circle back to that. But no, it's good. It's good that we do that, actually, because that's one of the things that really makes me tick is guys like you that sure, we're like-minded in a lot of ways, but we have a very different background. We have different experiences, and we come from different places, and so your perspective offers me things that maybe I had blind spots to, and so it's good to hear you articulate those, and I like, especially somebody that is like, you're one of the best hunters that I personally know. You really are, Tom. Yeah, and I think I told you that on the last time you were on the show. And you're like one of the best hunters that I personally know. And so your perspective, no offense to somebody who notches a tag once every 10 years, but your perspective holds more credibility to me because you are out there more, you see more, you hunt in multiple different areas. I grow tired of somebody that hunts the same side of one mountain their entire life for one species, but they have big opinions on everything else. I get it. I'm an opinionated guy too, but at some point we've got to start running up the bullshit flag on some of these loudmouths out there, just kind of creating trouble for us because they're creating bigger divides within the hunting space. And I'm so burned out with that stuff. So anyways, yeah, it's been great to hear some of your side on that. We always have like this mission when you're on the show, like we're talking about wolf hunting, we're talking about elk hunting, whatever. So it's good to just kind of go back and forth with no real agenda there.
Yeah,
You
it
know?
works for me. Yeah, no, I enjoy it, and I think one thing that's helped me too is I worked in the woods my whole life too, so
Yeah.
and just seeing, I've got to see like what the world would say is bad for the environment. I've seen logging benefit wildlife habitat. I've seen what too much logging can hinder habit. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
you can.
Yep. There's a
So
balance.
I've learned balance, and I've seen that with my own work. I've seen that with hunting. I've seen it like we've actually have created better habitat than just letting nature do itself. Like nature, like we're part of nature, and realistically, you know, when people are like, "Oh, well, bears have claws, bears have teeth," that's how they kill their game. Like us, we have our brains. Like that's how we've survived thousands of years. We
Yeah.
always created tools. And for us, I feel like with the knowledge that we have, we should be responsible with that. It doesn't mean to leave nature. We can be a part of nature and to manage it. But I also, like I said, like, to stand back and like why I feel like we've done really well over the years is we've seen how bears react to us being out in the woods, if it's logging, if it's hunting. I've just spent a lot of time around wildlife.
Yeah.
And
You
and
have,
not
man, a
purposely.
lot.
And I think it just helps, like, just because I'm into it. There's people that are hunters, but then when they're working, they're away from wildlife. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I was
Yep.
fortunate enough that, when you talked about living in a wintering range, my teens, before there was an area that before it got developed, I grew up in an elk wintering range. It was awesome. I mean, I remember my chore was to chase the elk off the porch. Like, you know what I mean? We had deer, like, we had a deer named Ginger. She'd scrape our door and we'd open it up and she wanted some corn fed, she wanted
Yeah.
some corn. And
Yeah.
so we feed it. I mean, that was my childhood.
Hmm.
And and so that's kind of like when us,
That's the
my when I
childhood of my kids. Sounds
it,
great.
it is. And that's why I bought that 20 acres recently.
Hmm.
I'm like, and my wife's like, why does this mean so much to you? I'm like, because this was my childhood. I mean, it's not like my parents had 200 acres. So it was a little bit different. And it was bordering a lot of land that wasn't being developed yet. So there was a lot of game,
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
bulls. But I got to learn, like, just being there alone before I had a driver's license. I got to always be around wildlife,
Yeah.
always. And I still am. I mean, even like I said yesterday, I mean, it was nothing for me. Oh, I'm going to do an afternoon run and look for black bears. I think, I mean, it was hard to tell, but I'm pretty sure I was staring at a black bear before dark,
Yeah.
but it looked like one sleeping. I couldn't tell. I'll have to go back and check, but it just was off color. But it's like, how many people can say they can do that after work,
Yeah. I know, that's what's fun, man. I love it. I
Yeah.
love that kind of stuff. So
Or just always around wild animals and stuff. So
yeah,
but I enjoy it.
exactly.
and I always enjoy you having me on too. I know as we always enjoy having fun conversations, and we both have a lot of the same goals, and
Yeah.
we enjoy doing what we do. And I think if we both had the choice, we would just like be hermits,
Oh,
like,
totally. Totally, man.
like,
If I wasn't worried about the future of hunting, I wouldn't have this podcast. I
yeah,
wouldn't do it if I wasn't concerned. And I mean that. Like I am not, we were talking about being overwhelmed at the expo. I'm social to a point, but I'm not that social. I don't want to go to Salt Lake City and stand in a booth with thousands of people around me. It's not my thing. In fact, it makes me nervous. So,
yeah,
and so it's just if it weren't for that, but and it's just good. We have like you said, we have common goals and we have different perspectives that we bring to the table. Maybe we have the same goal, but maybe you and I have different ways to come at it. I'm not saying we do. It sounds like we're pretty much in agreement. But having these conversations is going to lead us to that goal, even if we shift course a little bit, because maybe, like I said, maybe you said something that I'm like, oh man, I never thought of that. That was a blind spot of mine. And so the point is we need to keep having these conversations and moving forward with this, because the future really does depend on us. We have an aggressor, and we have to be the defenders, and that's just how it's been. It's gotten worse throughout my lifetime. When I was a kid, man, we didn't even know what an anti-hunter or animal rights activist was. I'd never even heard that term until I got into like middle school or something like that. And so
but it's
anyway,
always been a fight since the beginning of time for us. It just
yeah.
they've always just been on us for something. It's always, I mean, it's always been
Oh, they
obvious.
were there. They were there. We just lived in our little bubble,
Yeah, right, of course.
and there wasn't social media, and it wasn't all over the news, and stuff like that. So
Yeah, that's true too. But yeah, no, it's good to have a voice, and I'd say like it kind of goes back to like what can we do, and I think it's just there is power in numbers, and I feel like maybe Idaho's not doing good with it because I mean I don't know. For me, I feel like Idaho's doing well with it with like F4WM, the Foundation for Wildlife Management
hmm
and stuff. Like I'm seeing trappers and hound hunters and everybody in the middle getting together saying we need to manage wolves. And I'm not bashing Montana whatsoever, but I noticed there was quite a hurdle for Montana because there was hound hunters that hated trappers because trappers were
oh
hunting
yeah,
hounds on accident and it was just like there was just so much contention amongst each other. It's like, bro, we're all on the same page here. Your hounds are getting killed by wolves. These trappers are trying to help with the wolf population. Like,
yeah,
let's work it out. And here we're really in tune. Like we're all in connection. Like I probably have in this unit, I probably have every hound hunter's phone number. You know what I mean? In
hmm
my phone. And then when there's a wolf pack they cross, I get a text, and you know what? They're doing the homework for me because they're like, wolf pack crossed here. Well, sweet. I just got a waypoint. That helps me now. And so next time I see wolves cross there, I can tell if it was either random or if it's something they normally cross.
yeah, yeah.
So
Get all the intel. That's smart, man. I need to
so
do that.
yeah, so now, I mean, so that sort of thing helps. And like what we were talking earlier too with the hunters and trappers, we're all on the same page here. But I know for a fact if there's a good trapper in the woods, I'm just going to let him have his space. I
hmm
have all year to hunt wolves. He only has a couple months. Now, on the other hand, if there's a trapper who's like he's been in the area for 2 years and he doesn't have a lot of experience and he hasn't hunted a wolf, well, he may not be able to keep me out of there.
Yeah, yeah,
Like there's
yeah.
wolves
That's
to
the
be
nature of it.
killed. So, but like I said, the guys that are used, we have three guys up here that are just solid dudes, and they are just when they're around, they hammer them. And if the wolves are wised up to them, I know they're wised up. It's just like they're struggling, and it's like, you know what, like you guys have done really well, and
Yeah,
we're actually at a point where I feel like we got them under control, but not
yeah.
all Idaho's like that. You know what I mean?
No,
We've
North Idaho has been super aggressive
we've been aggressive.
and super focused on becoming effective at trapping and hunting the wolf, and so I would agree with you. I don't know about you, Tom. I'm seeing more elk. I'm hearing more elk. Um, I'm seeing less wolf sign. That's I generally know, like when I'm out elk hunting, for example, I generally know where the wolves are. Like I not I couldn't send you a waypoint, but I generally know roughly where they're at, what drainage they're hanging in that day. Where because they're there, I know they're probably going to be there tomorrow and to this spot the next day, kind of thing. I generally kind of have a good bead as to where the wolves are, and that what I've noticed is they're like there's less of them to keep track of or something. I don't know how to explain that, but
That's true. I'm not crossing near as many wolf tracks as I used
yeah,
to, and that's kind of how I've been too. Because way we've had to adapt an elk and mule deer hunt is we started hunting those areas where wolves weren't running. Right, we were just staying right on the outskirts of that. There's just some areas like I have a mule deer. It's actually kind of a spot where I killed my mule deer this year. There's wolves that run that country, but for some reason they avoid that particular section.
mm,
And I don't know why, but then there seems to be it's an okay mule deer population. It's not the greatest, but it seems like it's a spot that the wolves have always overlooked. And maybe it's just because it's always been just a mule deer spot, not necessarily an elk or a moose spot. I feel like that kind of brings them in, and then they also kill the muleys as well. But like that's how I hunt too. And that's kind of how I switch off when I wolf hunt. I'm like, okay, where do I don't want to hunt elk?
yeah,
Okay, yeah, that's because the wolves run it so hard, So
yeah,
those areas
yeah,
that typically start switching off to. Um, but no, same thing here. The wolf numbers are down in a good way. But as we know, for not, we could say, oh, they're good. Let's shut down the season. It just takes 1 year. Boom, you got to pack again. So you have to be on it. You have to keep
yeah.
it down. And it takes a couple years for like we're definitely there's definitely a recovery going on. There was one drainage we had 6 bulls bugling, all rag bulls, but it's like, look, give it 5 years, we're gonna have some studs in there again. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah,
And
yeah.
but it was kind of hard because you're like herd bull bugling in. There's this little 4x5 comes just screaming in. I'm just like I let
that's
a lot of
that's a good point, man. I think that I was telling you how good all the vocalizations were last September for me and my girls, and they were hearing all of them, but they were all just raghorns,
yeah.
And I'm the kind of guy, man. I am not picky. I'm not Tom Schneider. I'm good with a raghorn, man. I'll shoot a spike. I don't have big ambitions when it comes to elk hunting. It changes a little bit with deer, but anyways, the point that I'm saying is I think that you're right. There's a lot of young ones running around and they're making
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah,
and
it is kind of there's
yeah,
an age gap. I noticed. The same with mule deer, where
yeah,
there'll
yeah,
be like 1 or 2 just like old hosses on the mountain, and then there's this age gap where there's nothing, and then there's just a ton of young ones coming up, and I've seen it with moose too, um, or moose are coming back too, and
yeah,
so it's a little bit of everything. But like I said, there's just every so often you think everything's under control, and I've thought this before. And all of a sudden, boom, a wolf pack will just explode. And it's just like,
yeah.
God, really? Why? Like everything was going so good. And then all of a sudden a pack just explodes. And then I'm back pursuing them. And I honestly, besides that pack I hunted with Dirk, I didn't really have a wolf pack to pursue this fall. I was like, and I was really content. I was like, can I just enjoy the fruits of my labors? Can I just hunt deer
Yeah,
now? And
right, right.
so I was just having a good old time hunting deer and elk and not really.
Well,
And
you
I'm
deserve
like,
it, man.
huh?
I says you deserve that though.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
I was joking. There was a guy, I found a moose paddle the other day, and a guy is like, you need to be back wolf hunt. I'm like, just let me enjoy the fruits of my labor, okay? Like, I don't feel like I always have to pursue wolves. I want to,
No way, man. It's all on Tom's shoulders. Just
yeah.
get out there and take care of those wolves for the rest of us, right? No,
Yeah,
that's like the
exactly.
mentality. Yeah, we got to get that mentality gone, man. There's got to be other ways. So I'm glad you got
That's
to
why
enjoy a fall and
that's why we're teaching it, because I can't hunt all of Idaho, you know what I
yeah,
mean? And I want to be more effective with that too. And I'm trying to find better ways to teach others. We're doing the Wolffighter Masterclass. We're doing the in person. I did a very small one in Montana, and it was actually it was a very good success. It was just a 1 day, and just got a bunch of guys together. The thing is, the only thing I'm concerned about is bringing it seems like when you have too many guys in one area, it kind of does more harm than good.
Yeah.
But it's good to get like it's good to just get a handful of just really skilled hunters. And they don't even have to be good wolf hunters, but if like these guys, if you're a good elk hunter or a good mule deer hunter, like you'll pick up wolf hunting. Like,
Yeah.
but some guys want to get in the wolf hunt, but they've never killed their first elk. And I'm like, perhaps try killing your first elk first. Like, because wolves are by far a harder animal to hunt than any other species. But like, we get an elk under the belt, and like I said, that doesn't have to be a big herd bull, but get a rag bull in the belt or something. Just like get a little bit of hunting under your belt, because you're about ready to hop into something that's just like wolf hunting is a challenge like you wouldn't believe, but it's very rewarding and it gets my heart going. Oh yes, I'm saying this out loud. I would rather shoot a wolf than a monster herd bull elk. There's just something like I get like when a wolf pack comes running in to a call, there's an adrenaline like you wouldn't believe. I mean, I killed a great bull this year and I was happy about it, but like I still can't deny the fact like just the adrenaline rush of calling it a wolf pack is just something different. And just the reward of it, just because it's so hard to hunt wolves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so just like with any hunt, when a hard hunt, like when everything comes together, so rewarding. And my elk hunt was very rewarding. I mean, it was, and
Totally.
it was a bull I had to watch.
He was a nice bull, man.
This great bull, had a lot of trail cam photos of him, and just finally caught him on the wrong day for him.
Yeah, heck yeah,
rifle season. But he never left. That was one thing. I guess we're out of time, but the one thing I had to do with him is toward the very end of archery season, I had to back off on him. I'm like, he's going to stay here. Like I think.
And then you came back at him and rifle.
And he was in the same drainage as I left, where I left him. Yeah. So.
Interesting.
So I mean, but I think if I would have pushed him too hard during the later part of archery, pushed him hard early, and then I backed off on him, and then he came back in with chasing the cows.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, you know what? Wait for rifle. So,
cool, man. Good for you.
Thanks.
Staying on the same bull that long. I love it, man. That's cool. Not a lot of people do that. So
yeah, it was good. But
well, let's wrap this up telling everybody again, we've got the movie night in Coeur d'Alene. I've got that April 26th, right? And at North Idaho Archery.
Yeah.
And just, for those of you listening, that'll be in the show notes. So you can jump on there and get your tickets for anybody that's kind of local to the Coeur d'Alene, Idaho area. And that would be fun. I would love to do that. So that gives you guys about a month to get your tickets and get ready for that. So, because I'm going to put this episode out pretty quick. And anything else you want me to throw in the show notes that you should want the listeners to know?
If anybody wants to see those summer camps, they're all on the same website too, and so they can all explore that. And we always have our Stuck and Rut Instagram, and I use Instagram like almost like text, and so you could always message me there. I just recently got suspended on Facebook for sharing a firearm video, and so
imagine that.
Huh?
I said, imagine that.
Imagine that. So that's the first time I ever got Facebook jail over.
I can't believe I have not been put in space. I was shocked post too. Crazy stuff on there.
So here's the thing. So I've just recently connected my Instagram to my Facebook. And
is that what you did?
I've never done that before. And so usually I'm pretty safe. I'm pretty careful with Facebook. In fact, I only just really use Facebook as my personal, just like still keep in contact with my high school friends and family.
Yeah. I kind of do that too.
And what happened is just like on my stories, when I do stories on Instagram, it was automatically doing it right to Facebook. And so all of a sudden I see that my Facebook's suspended and I can't get on. I'm like, so I started scratching my head, and then I started clicking. I saw firearms, like, oh yeah, I just shared a post about firearms on my Instagram that automatically went over to my Facebook. I still have access to my Instagram. It's just that Instagram rules are just slightly different than Facebook, although it's the same owner.
I know, it's bizarre, man. It's so stupid. I can't believe I haven't been flat banned off of Facebook. I post like the funniest, raunchiest memes I could find about Biden, And I post like conspiracy theories. I all sorts of stuff.
You get crazy on Facebook
sometimes. Yeah, no, I'll like just drop a bomb and leave it, and people will be commenting all pissed off.
Yeah.
Oh no, Biden's not that dumb. Oh, yeah, he is, and I just ignore him. But
that's where I like to stir pot too. I'm just like, who cares? It's my Facebook.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, good deal, brother, man. The only thing I'm going to ask you to promise me is when I'm done remodeling the studio, you'll actually come in physically in the studio here, and
we can
do it in purpose.
When I drop Montana Muley, I'll probably just like right after a good old deer hunt, I'll probably just show up.
Just show up, man. I'll text you the address. Just come on by.
All right.
That'd be fun. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you joining me, man. I know I went way longer than I told you it would be, so I appreciate that. And I think it was a good episode, though. So I appreciate it. It's gonna be good.
What do you think you're gonna title it?
I don't know yet. We're gonna figure it out. What, you got any ideas?
No, I don't.
I'll think of something, brother. But thanks again for coming on.
Everything. It was good. It was a good chat.
Yeah. Yeah. You made it. That's the end of the episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure you're following us on Instagram at The Western Huntsman and write us a good review at Apple Podcasts. Thanks, guys. See you next time. Stay Western, and I'll see you on the mountain.